Seeing as it's 6 p.m., I call the October 2021 regular meeting of the Kenai City Council to order. And if you are able to, would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome, everyone. And tonight we have the city clerk participating by Zoom. So at this time, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Gabriel.
Here.
Councilmember Askin.
Here.
Councilmember Glendenning.
Here.
Vice Mayor Malloy.
Here.
Councilmember Petty.
Here.
Councilmember Winger.
Present.
Councilmember Naxtet.
Here.
Student Representative Faulkner.
Here.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item that we have, it's my pleasure, in our pleasure, it's the certification of the October 5th, 2021 election results of the City of Kenai election. And I want to note that we have the newly elected officials, Deborah Soonard and James Baisden, in the audience, and they would be taking their oath of office Monday after the certification that council does. And hopefully there would be a do-over just for family and friends on the next agenda. But before I ask for a motion, I'd first ask the clerk to read into the record the election results. If you would go ahead and do that, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. At the October 5th, 2021 election, on election night, Jim Duffield received 47 votes, Alexander Douthat received 203 votes, James Baisden received 279 votes, Deborah Stonart received 302 votes, and Victoria Askin received 233 votes. There were also 14 write-ins. At the Canvass Board meeting, which was held on October 12th, we counted 16 additional votes for Jim Duffield, 73 for Alexander Douthat, 47 for James Baisden, 40 for Deborah Stonart, and 79 for Victoria Askin. That there were also 3 write-ins during that Canvass Board meeting. And so all total, Jim Duffield received 63 votes, Alexander Douthat received 276, James Baisden received 326, Deborah Stonart received 342 votes, and Victoria Askin received 312 votes. There was a total of 17 write-ins, and James Baisden and Deborah Stonart are the prevailing 2 candidates for elected to City Council. We counted 152 votes during the Canvass Board meeting. 9 ballots were rejected for being outside of the city or not properly registered, for a total of 143 ballots counted. The poll voter turnout was 619. The total voter turnout was 762, for 12.15% voter turnout for this election.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Glendenning.
Yes, I have a question. I would like to see a breakout of the votes for the absentees by precinct, and that would be, I think, pertinent to our discussion. I don't think it's germane to the certification tonight, but I would appreciate seeing those numbers. Thank you.
So that would be a request for a report at a future meeting. Okay. And is Councilmember Naxtet?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I moved to certify the results of the canvass of the ballots of the regular election of October 5th, 2021.
I'll second.
The certification has been moved and seconded. And is there any discussion? Councilmember Glendenning.
Yes, I would like a reminder as to why we don't certify the election and then swear in the newly certified counselors. If someone could explain that, please.
So the city attorney isn't here with us tonight, so for that I would defer to the city clerk to answer that
Thank you, Vice
question.
Mayor. In 2019, the voters approved a charter amendment which provided that the council members' terms began on Monday following certification of the election.
So it's either a charter or code. I believe it was a charter that the term starts the Monday after the certification. And
Correct,
since
charter.
right, and the reason I was suggesting, like so they would get sworn in on Monday and they're officially, take up their duties then. But I was just suggesting for the voters and their families, there might be a little ceremony, on the agenda for the public at another meeting. Is there any other discussion? Councilmember Winger.
I too would like to propose that we do this in a public forum at our next following meeting to give the public an option to meet your newly elected officials as well as their families a chance to participate. Ultimately, we work for you, we represent you, and you have every right to be there in a public forum to watch this happen. So I would like to encourage our mayor who's on Zoom to pick this up at the following meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Winger. And is there any other, Councilmember Petty?
Yes, on Monday, when they are sworn in, the public is invited to that, so it's not a private ceremony, swearing in, and so anyone is welcome to attend that also, just to let that be known.
And thank you for that clarification and comment. Councilmember Glendenning.
Yeah, just a follow-up on my own experiences when I was set up, sworn in. I remember that, Glendenning and I, at the same time, we had opportunity to get kind of like the Counselor 101 version of department heads and our employees. We had meeting with the city attorney, the city clerk, the manager, and all the department heads, and we got a little talk story about what was happening within their departments, and we actually had a chance of touring, say, for example, the wastewater treatment plant or the fire department, or say over at the airport, going through the fire department, et cetera, et cetera. And I hope that courtesy will be extended for the newly elected members that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Glendenning. And I've been corrected. I want everyone to know that the city attorney is present by Zoom. He's also participating by Zoom. Thank you, Mr. Bloom. And is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Glendenning,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Malloy,
Yes.
Councilmember Petty,
Yes.
Councilmember Petty,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Naxtet,
Yes?
Vice Mayor Malloy, I'm sorry, Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Malloy, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. This election is certified. Next item on the agenda is agenda approval. Before we get to the agenda approval, I'd like to draw your attention to the laydown you should have in front of you with requested revisions to the agenda and packet. Action, add to item D4, Ordinance Number 3251-2021, supplemental memo requested by the city clerk. Add to item G7, discussion of Kenai Dog Park, supplemental memo requested by the city manager. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Nexted.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move for approval of the agenda with the two noted additions to one for item D4 and the other for G7.
I'll second that.
Request unanimous consent.
It's been moved and seconded, and unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection to unanimous consent? Seeing no objection, the agenda is approved. Hey, the next item is the item number 5. It gives me great pleasure to do this. It's the oath of office for the student representative of Leah Faulkner. Ms. Faulkner, if you'd come out front, please. Your oath of office. I, Leah Faulkner, do solemnly affirm I will faithfully and honestly perform the duties of Kenai City Council Representative.
I, Leah Faulkner,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
I will faithfully and honestly perform the duties
I will faithfully and honestly perform the duties
of Kenai City Council Student Representative.
as Kenai City Council Student Representative
There's more. By representing Kenai Central High School
by representing Kenai Central High School
through communicating with student council members,
through communicating with student council members,
seeking feedback from other students,
seeking feedback from other students,
and providing information and viewpoints
and providing information and viewpoints
to the City Council on city issues affecting young people.
to the City Councils on viewpoints
To the City Council on city issues
to the City Council on city issues
affecting young people.
affecting young people.
Beautiful. So I've signed this, and then you'll be able to sign it, and the deputy clerk will help you with that at a break, and then a copy, and you'll have one for yourself.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Nexted.
Thank you. I move to approve the consent agenda and request unanimous consent.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any objection to unanimous consent? Seeing no objection, Madam Clerk, would you please read the consent agenda items into the record?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Tonight on your consent agenda, you have approval of the special meeting minutes of October 1st, 2021, brought forth by the city clerk. Approval of the regular meeting minutes of October 6th, 2021, brought forth by the city clerk. Approval of bills to be ratified, brought forth by administration. Introduction of Ordinance Number 3252-2021, increasing estimated revenue and appropriations in the water and sewer fund for operational costs in excess of budgeted amounts at the wastewater treatment plant, brought forth by administration with a public hearing on November 3rd. And introduction of Ordinance Number 3253-2021, accepting and appropriating a donation from Hillcorp Energy Company to assist with the annual area-wide senior Thanksgiving dinner, brought forth by administration with a public hearing on November 3rd. That's your consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anybody from the general public who would like to speak to any item on the consent agenda which the clerk just read? Yes, please come forward, and you're welcome to speak to that. You have 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record.
Sharon Efta, 610 Laurel Drive, Kenai. It's my understanding that the Canvas Board last Tuesday actually certified the election. The newly elected people got an email that they were elected. So why is it necessary for you all to certify it when it's already been certified?
So it's part of the process that the under code and charter that the council certifies the election would be mine, but I would again defer to the city clerk to answer that question.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. That's correct. It's in our, council is, I don't remember the exact terminology, but council is the judge of the elections, and so council ultimately responsible for certifying the results of the election.
Is that the actual wording that is in this, that it is after, the Monday after the certification of the council, that the new people take their seats?
So again, that's a matter of charter and code, and so we're bound to follow our charter and code, and so that's what happens. That's
I'm
when,
asking, is the wording exactly that way in the charter and code, that it's the council's certification that matters as to when these people take their seats, is my question.
yes, and we're not going to take the time at this time to go ahead and research that for you. You know, you can certainly get the exact text from the clerk at a later date, but this is a time for comment on items on the consent agenda, and this actually wasn't on the consent agenda. This was an action that the council already took.
Already took when?
Well, we just certified the election earlier this evening.
We did it right in front of us, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm expecting you guys to know what your actual wording says. I mean, if the wording actually says that it's when it is certified, which was last Tuesday, then they should actually be up there today, is what I'm saying.
Well, no, the canvas board, all those results are unofficial until after the canvas board, excuse me, I'll stop right there because I may mistake something. But what I do want to say is it's, you know, we appreciate your comments, but this is not the time for that issue, because this is the time for public comment on items on the consent agenda, and that's what the clerk read into the record. That's items that were being introduced by consent that are going to be taken action on later.
Right.
Okay, just a second, excuse me a sec. The city manager says that he has the exact language, so he'll read it to you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. And first of all, I can assure you, although we don't have code and charter memorized, we are following code and charter. It's in Charter Section 10.2C. The terms of office of the mayor and other council members shall begin the Monday following certification of the election. If the mayor-elect or a council member fails to qualify within 1 month after the beginning of the term, election, the council member shall be void and the council shall fill the vacancy. The other portion of code that specifies that the council is the one that certifies the election is not in charter, it's in code. I can't pull that up immediately, but again, I can assure you that we're following both code and charter.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment on an item on the consent agenda, which is what the clerk read into the record? Yes, Mr. Steiner, and you're welcome to come to speak to anything on the consent agenda. And thank you for coming to our meeting, and I want to recognize you as a former city council member.
Just a few seconds is all I want.
Sure, you have 3 minutes. And could you say your address, please, sir?
I'm at 3, to Vinnie's Point Manor.
Okay. And it's Buck Steiner? Yes. Okay, thank you, sir. Go ahead.
And I've lived there quite a long time now, and it's a wonderful place to live. And I've seen maintenance managers come and go, some good, some not quite so good. The one we have now and the one that you reaffirmed is the best by far that I've ever seen, and I'm very happy to see. As far as I'm concerned, I'm very, very happy that he's back there with us again. And I know of no one that, and I'm sure there's someone, but I know of no one that doesn't think he's a damn good fellow operating over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner. Appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Steiner?
I'll get up if you do.
Okay, seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone else from the general public that would like to speak on to an item that's on the consent agenda that the clerk read into the record? Now, again, there'll be time for unscheduled public comment to comment on anything. So
I just want to ditto his whatever Mr. Stein said.
If there's anybody on Zoom who wants to speak to anything on the consent agenda, you can unmute yourself or use the raise hand feature.
Excuse me, Madam Clerk. So you'll be able to make that comment during unscheduled public comment, okay? And the clerk has just asked if there's anybody else who's on Zoom that may want to comment on anything on the consent agenda, which is what the clerk had read into the record? Okay, seeing none, and no one else here who would like to comment on an item on the consent agenda, then we'll move on to the next, excuse me. We'll bring it back to council. Are there any objections to the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, the consent agenda is approved by unanimous consent. Next item is scheduled public comment. We have none. After that, item C, unscheduled public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to comment at this time on any item not on the agenda or the consent agenda? Please come forward. You have a, okay. Also, please state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Sure. Is this on? Hello? Yes, it's on. Okay. My name is Garrett. I'm from Kenai here. Longtime resident since I've been a baby, pretty much. So I'm here today because I'm concerned. I'm glad to see that most folks here are not wearing masks. They're not afraid of each other, to breathe around each other. So that's encouraging. It's different in other places that I've been, such as Soldotna, Anchorage. So just going to briefly go through this. So on Sunday, September 19th, there was a bunch of folks, citizens of the state of Alaska and local communities that showed up. We held a rally for medical liberty, and that was at Soldotna Creek Park in concert with about 37 other cities across the United States. These are going to be ongoing rallies. We're going to hopefully have another one coming up in November 20th. That's going with the worldwide rallies for liberty and freedom and for medical liberty especially. So in attendance, we had about 250 people from across the Kenai Peninsula and the broader South Central region. During this rally, numerous speakers gave testimony and voiced their concerns about how our government's using unconstitutional mandates to control citizens' rights to movement, assembly, medical liberty, bodily autonomy, economic freedom, and the freedom of speech. Now, it's the right of the people to make official grievances to the government. When the government goes beyond its enumerated power and infringes upon the natural rights of the citizens, it is our duty to remove those who have abused their positions of authority. Now, we believe it is necessary for the state of Alaska, its political subdivisions, to report back to D.C. that the citizens of Alaska will not comply with any enforcement that goes beyond the scope of their power and their authority. We believe also that for a free state with representative government ordained by the people to exist for the benefit of the people, it is necessary for the state and its lesser political magistrates to act in accordance with the Constitution of the United States as well as its own Constitution. Now, to these ends, it is required that every individual who serves as a government official take a solemn oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Now, if that representative fails to do so, they are not in accordance with their solemn oath and therefore should honorably relinquish their position. Now, enclosed is an essay by Leonard E. Reed titled I Pencil. It's a speech delivered by U.S. Congressman Davy Crockett titled Not Yours to Give. So there's two different things that you'll get in this packet on the beginning there. And finally, it's our Citizens' Declaration of Medical Liberty that outlines our demands and our natural-born rights as individuals to medical liberty, as well as our intentions if the representatives of the state and or its political subdivisions do not uphold these rights. So that's kind of why I'm here and why some other folks I think have kind of joined me as well. And we're going to continue just trying to show our support for the local local council members that have been recently elected, and also want to show our support for our local city council here as well. And we hope that if anything comes down by, say, federal or even state mandates, I hope that we can act as a community and try and prevent that from happening, especially coercion through employment, because that's been another issue that's been going on across the United States. And I've really only seen two governors really outspoken across the United States, and our governor hasn't been as outspoken as I would hope he could be. So that's our concerns, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir, and we didn't get your address.
My address is 114 Harbor Avenue.
Right, and I apologize, I didn't get your name.
Garrett.
Garrett
Ennis.
Garrett Ennis, thank you. Would you mind taking questions if anyone has any questions for you, Mr. Ennis? Okay, does anyone on the council have questions? Councilmember Petty?
Yes, sir. I did get the date for your next Liberty gathering, but I
Yeah.
did not get the time. Could you share that with
We
us?
haven't actually got a time yet.
Okay.
It's kind of in the works still because it is a worldwide thing on the
Okay.
20th of November. But there are also folks in Anchorage that have been gathering, so they just had one on the 16th, and I believe they're going to be having another one here very, very soon.
So is the location yet to be determined?
Up in Anchorage?
No, here
Oh, here?
locally?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Glendenning.
Yeah, not so much a question, as just a comment, and maybe it indicates some of the flavor of our community, is that I attended a fundraiser for the Soldotna Chamber, and it was their main event for all their scholarships. It was attended by a large amount of people. It was very well attended, very well supported. And I noticed that it was the Soldotna Chamber of Commerce, but the event was held in Sterling. And it was also mask-free, so maybe that speaks to the point. Thank you.
Councilmember Winger.
I was going to reiterate a lot of what Mr. Glendenning just said. I too went to their event that they were unable to hold in their own city limits due to their mandates. And I just want to say thank you for your guys' effort. I know this is a very divided issue, regardless of where you stand. I just appreciate people wherever they stand to be active and vocal. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ennis. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak? Please come forward. And please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name's Queen Alita Parker. I live on 29084 Whale of a Tail in Sterling. My message is really simple. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. As a free person living under the laws of the Constitution, I have the right to choose for myself what supplements I want to use or not use. When the government insists on masks, that is the government micromanaging my health care options in a fashion one size fits all. This is just a political experiment. There is no scientific evidence that supports the wearing of masks in public has quelled the virus. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Would you stand for any questions if there are any?
No.
Okay, thank you. Not a problem. Councilmember Winger, did you have a comment, not a question?
I just wanted to say thank you, Ms. Queen, for coming and testifying.
Come on ahead, sir, and please state your name and address for the record, and then you have 3 minutes.
My name is Jason Floyd. I live at 4515 Ross Street in Kenai. I'm a local business owner. I own Ammo Can Coffee. I was at the rally that Mr. Ennis initiated. There were a lot of people there and a lot of things said. What I want to say tonight, first of all, is thank you for not wearing a mask. When we went into Soldotna, we were met at the door by 3 police officers. For some reason, they thought maybe that we presented some kind of danger to the council. I appreciate the fact that Kenai has remained open and that the buildings are open and that you're not requiring a mask mandate. With that being said, I also want to say that, you know, the Bible talks about money, and it says a lot of things about money. And one of the things it says is that the love of money is the root of all evil. And the situation we're in right now, where we have what seems an open tap of federal money coming into this community and this state to influence our government and those folks who are in charge of our healthcare system to then coerce us into doing something with our bodies that maybe we want to do or not do is inappropriate. And we were watching when this council accepted CARES Act money. We were watching when the council put that money into public safety. We were watching when the council took other monies out of public safety and put them in the general fund. We were watching how all of you used the public's funds. Davy Crockett has something about to say about not yours to give. And I encourage you not to just throw this in the circular file, but to actually read what this statesman said and what he thought he was doing. And he made a vote that he thought was right and honorable, and a constituent in his district set him straight, and he changed his direction. And he was an honorable man because he did so. He saw the error of his previous vote. My encouragement to you and to the new council members who are not allowed to sit up there at this point is to read these documents. Read about open market. Read about the creativity of your community. We all care for our neighbors and our friends, and we're the ones who will make the best decisions for our own health and for that of our children and that of our community. As a business owner, if my customers are sick, if my customers are dying, if my staff, which one of my staff members is in the audience, is sick and can't come to work, that's a major problem. We take it very seriously. We take it more seriously, I would pose, than you do. So don't use your position to presume that you have knowledge outside of our own. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak. I know there's other people who want to speak, and my time is up. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Is there any questions for Mr. Floyd? Councilmember Winger.
Yes, I just want to say thank you for coming and testifying and paying attention to the little things that our body has done. You know, we did keep an emergency order in effect just to be able to be eligible to receive funds. So you're very much correct that some of this could be driven not out of good policy. So I appreciate you guys being holding us accountable, because we are accountable to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on anything not on the agenda or consent agenda? Okay, please come forward and you have, please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, all. My name is Christine Hutchison, and I'm at 281 Julietson Street, right off Beaver Loop. What I'm concerned with is not so much the masks, but the fact that we do not hear from anyone except the governor of Nebraska that our state can use preventive medicine. Now, masks, I don't believe stop anything. I don't believe chain link fences stop mosquitoes. I want to be able to go to a medical practitioner, a doctor, and have that person prescribe ivermectin, and I can take it to the pharmacy, and what's her name, Rose, can fill it there at Fred Meyer's, or I can go to the hospital and they can give Bill Topol ivermectin. Now, I know that you guys aren't in control of that. You can't vote what the pharmacy does. I understand that. But it has to be put out there. Yes. And anytime I'm involved in the group of 3 or 4 people, I ask them, do you know what the protocol is to prevent getting it? Do you have ivermectin on your bathroom shelf? Because you can get it. There's places where you can get it. The doctors will not help you, the pharmacy will not help you, and the hospital will not help you. We need to get that word out. I have not been wearing a mask. I will not wear a mask. I think that comes from a Zeus book. But this is my concern. We have got to get the message out that there are preventive measures, and government is not doing that. I don't know if you can tell, I'm not really a big government person. In any case, I'm opposed to the masks, and I'm going to take a big trip here next week. I'm going to go into the big city of Anchorage, and I'm not going to wear a mask. So if I don't come back, you'll know I'm probably in jail. So anyway, that's my thing, is to get people educated on what can help them. COVID is not going away. The flu has not gone away. I believe people actually got polio after the vaccine went away, you know? I don't know that for sure, but it's entirely possible that that happened. I don't think COVID's going away, but the prevention, the taking care of ourselves, following the protocol, which is pretty straightforward and not difficult to do, can make a difference. And it'll save those hospitals so they can do elective surgeries. Anyway, if you have a question, I'll be glad to answer it. Not sure I can, but I'll be glad to give it a shot.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchison. Councilmember Winger?
I just want to say thank you for coming out and bringing that point to the audience. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what ivermectin can do, preventative, and you're exactly right. If we were able to prescribe things on a therapeutic treatment level, people such as Mr. Bill Topple wouldn't have passed away. So there are preventable treatments. It's hard to do a cheap treatment when you're battling $1 trillion industry. But I appreciate you bringing that forth.
Is there anyone else from the general public that would like to speak? Come forward. And please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Bob, point of order. I
Yes.
wanted to speak to Christine's.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize.
Thank you, Christine, for bringing that up. Just my personal experience in the last week, my husband is considered high risk. He got COVID from a vaccinated person, and we wound up going to Homer and doing monoclonal antibodies and ivermectin, and he's pretty sure that's why he's here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Askin, and I apologize for missing your red light. Student Representative Faulkner, did you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you because me, myself, I had no idea there were treatments. And, you know, I don't know why I wouldn't know that because masks are such a big deal. So why wouldn't they make everything an option for us? So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, so please go ahead, Ms. Orth, and state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm April Orth, and I live in Kenai on Wortham. I wasn't going to testify tonight, but this seems to be a theme, and it seems to be a topic that I'm very, very good at. I had COVID. I was very blessed to get COVID because I found options, and I've been able to share that. I was able to contact the frontline doctors. We do have a few here in our state. Also, FLCCC provides information and doctors, and also my doctor, myfreedoctor.com. You can go and register on all of those and get Zoom meetings with them, and they will prescribe ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, your antibiotics, your inhalers. I got COVID. I was very, very ill. I was able to get a hold of a frontline doctor in Anchorage. They immediately prescribed hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, and a Z-Pak. Within 3 hours of my first dose, I was starting to recover. Within 1 day, my fever was reduced and my pain was gone. Within 4 days, I was up and going again, and within 5 days, I was testing negative for antibodies. You can recover very quickly if you treat it quickly. And the biggest thing I have to say is if you think you are getting sick, get to a doctor. Even before you get sick, get a hold of one of these doctors. The frontline doctors, the FLCCC, myfreedoctor.com, get a hold of them. Make your accounts. Be in contact with somebody so that you don't end up going to the hospital. We do not have a lot of options at the hospital. You can go for the antibodies if you qualify, or you can be put on Reconsideration. Reconsideration is not the treatment that you want to have. It is not nearly as successful as ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and a Z-Pak, or the antibodies. Reconsideration can cause kidney damage. When you're fighting COVID, you don't want to have kidney damage on top of that. So I just wanted to share that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Orth. Would you mind taking any questions?
Sure.
Councilmember Winger.
I understand that if I think that I might have the bug, I can go to the drugstore and they will test me for positive or negative. If it turns out to be negative, I can then get a help aid. There are several of them, I guess, on the market. so that the hospital will receive me and give me that treatment. Is that your understanding now?
The hospital doesn't provide hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, or,
Right,
but the antibodies, yes.
But the drugstore could.
So,
I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one.
so thank you, Mr. Steiner and Ms. Orth, and I think Councilmember Winger had a comment or question.
I think Mr. Singer had a great point, so thank you for asking that question. As far as, can you follow up to his question a little more? And then I do have another question.
I didn't quite understand that. If you think
Okay.
you're ill, you want to know if you can go to the hospital and get the antibodies?
No, you don't go to the hospital.
Oh,
You go
the
to
pharmacy.
Pharmacy, and they'll test you.
Yes.
To see whether you're negative or positive.
Yes.
If you're negative, if they're lucky, they have the material and send it on to the hospital along with you for quick early treatment for a small
All right.
helps, as you say, the earlier the better.
Yes.
Councilmember Winger?
I just wanted to say thank you for bringing forth the websites that you provided, the myfreedoctor.com, as well as the other ones that you listed for more information on that. Thank you for testifying and getting up even though you had not planned on doing it. And then I would like to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right, then, is there anyone else from the public that would like to comment? Okay, please come forward and state your name for the record and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Ann Hoffman, and I'm at P.O. Box 426 Sterling. And I was super excited to hear about your being elected to this position. I'd really like to exhort you to reach out to the other kids at your school, to do research, to look at it scientifically, and know your options. And I really think that that's great that you have chosen to do that. And so I want to continue to exhort you to a good work, because you can really teach other kids, even though we look at you as a kid, but you're a young adult, to be more active with their health care for their parents and their grandparents, and to dissuade some of the fear that's going out about what's happening. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huffman. It looks like Ms. Faulkner has a comment or question. Do you mind?
The red light.
I just wanted to say thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I think it's really important that we have our own knowledge, especially kids at Kenai Central. I know a lot of them don't have the best family lives, and that can be hard to research, but also very important because of that matter. And I totally agree with you on that, and I want to say thank you.
You could be a real trailblazer for a lot of young adults for the future, because without you, there is no future. So, good work.
Thank you. And is there anyone else, before we go to people participating by Zoom, is there anyone else here who would like to speak to the council on anything not on the agenda? Please come forward. And please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Carol Freese, and I live at 609 Maple Drive in Kenai. And I came tonight to congratulate you on 16 years of council. That's 384 meetings, and plus special meetings and work sessions and board and commission meetings at which you were liaisons. And thank you so much for your dedication to the Kenai community and its citizens. And thank you for your support of the employees of the city, without which you wouldn't have much of a city. As a former Kenai city clerk, I very much appreciate your support. Very much appreciate your support of the office and the constant activity and responsibilities of that office. And I didn't realize it didn't come to my mind today, but also thank you to Bob Freitas.
Yes.
Because he will be retiring at the end of the month. And thank him for his many, 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 many years of service to the city. Thank you.
So, Ms. Frias, thank you very much. I appreciate your kind comments. You know, in my closing comments, I did plan to refer to a lot of names, yours included, as our former city clerk that I had the benefit of working with, so I appreciate that. And you're correct about Mr. Frady's. I wasn't going to list all the directors because there's too many, but Mr. Frady's is the only one who was there the whole time, you know, because he has more than 30 years of service to the city, which is appreciated.
I asked him earlier if he started when he was 10. Because
yeah.
he was working, I believe, as a part-time Parks and Rec person whenever I started working for the city, so.
Yes.
A long time.
Yes. Do you mind taking a question or anything if anyone has any? Councilmember Winter.
I just wanted to say thank you for coming and testifying and showing the true commitment that Bob has had to our city. And Bob, I just want to say thank you for all your time and service to our community.
Thank you, Councilmember Winter. I appreciate your kind words also. And thank you.
Okay. And I had one more thing.
All right. Go ahead.
I wear a mask to protect myself and to protect others from me. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frias. We appreciate your care and concern. So I see, yes, please come forward. Although I recognize you, I would ask you, like anyone else, to state your name and address for the record, and you also have 3 minutes, Mr. Baisden.
James Baisden, I live at Chinook Drive. Thanks, Carol, for bringing up the service that Councilmember Malloy and also Askins. Appreciate everything that both of you have done. I know you guys have done great work for the city. The group that's here tonight, I didn't realize they were going to be here tonight, but I feel it's probably a good time for me to get up and kind of speak. I've been very outspoken when it comes to mandates, whether it's with the school district, whether it's with our local government. My previous position at the borough, I think that this is a polarizing subject that we could sit and talk about for hours. I'm in a fight right now with my oldest child at the University of Fairbanks right now, dealing with mandates when it comes to vaccinations. And after he arrived up there, the chancellor said that everybody who was in the dorms had to be vaccinated. And just recently, some of the university professors was pushing the chancellor to make sure everybody on campus was vaccinated. And the chancellor just come back and said they're going to hold off, but of course they're going to hold off and watch what the federal government does. And we're going to be in that same position. We're going to be looking for who's going to make us do this. And I could see the federal government coming with mandates towards us with any of the monies that we receive, that we're going to be forced to do mandates. And I'm going to be a voice against that. I think that it's wrong. And again, I know that it's a polarizing thing, but I thought it was something that I want to speak about. My family and I, we've also dealt with COVID. Probably 6 weeks ago, my wife and I had it pretty bad. Our children had it. They had no issues. We had all the medications that they're talking about. We used them. We're proof that it works. It made it easier for us during our transition whenever we had it. And we had local doctors that we talked with that gave us advice on what to do. You can't go to any of the pharmacies locally. They would not fill it. We had to go, our doctor had to use a pharmacist in Florida to fill the medications. So that's a problem. When did a pharmacist ever get in the way of you and your doctor until this issue started taking place? So it's going to continue to be an issue. It's not going away. And I'm afraid that we're going to be dealing with it for a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baisden. Do you mind taking a comment or question?
Sure.
Councilmember Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Baisden, for advocating for just equal treatment in the end. So thank you for advocating and being a voice with the school board, as well as being willing to step up and serve your community in a different capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to comment? Okay, seeing none in the room, is there anyone on Zoom? Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to overlook you. And although I recognize you, I ask you to state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm Christine Schmidt, 513 Ash Avenue. I am married to the Vice Mayor, Bob Malloy, and I'm just here tonight to say thank you for all of the help and assistance that Bob has received in the last 16 years from the Kenai employees, particularly the ones that the council hires, the manager, clerk, and attorney. and also his colleagues on the council. I think it's been really great he's had a great time and, worked really hard. We, basically every trip we've ever taken outside has been around council meetings for the last 16 years, and as well as the fact that every other Sunday, every month, Bob spends hours reading his packet. So he's worked very hard, and it's really been helpful to him to have all the help from the employees that, on his various projects. And I also wanted to thank the Kenai Fire Department for making Bob and I be able to get vaccinated so quickly and easily this year, because we are very fortunate here to have the fire department in the city come forward and offer the vaccine for people. I know that my friends and family outside are way behind us, so I'm just very proud and happy and feel fortunate that we've been able to have that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reardon. And I certainly enjoyed the tour that we got of the new fire truck, too. Okay. I'm sorry, and was there someone else in the room that wanted to comment? And I want to say I certainly agree with you about all the collaboration with the council members and the administration and the employees. Thank you. Is there anyone that's participating by Zoom who would like to comment on anything that's not on the agenda? Okay, I see none. And I want to note that Mayor Gabriel is with us, and I've been watching the board too, Mayor Gabriel, and I hadn't seen your hand raised yet, but if I miss it, please let me know. Okay,
not yet, Bob. I just wanted to say, I would just like to just collectively say thanks to all the folks that came out and testified here this evening.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Councilmember Nexted.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to, at this time, request an at ease. I see that we have some refreshments, cookies here in honor of you, and I think the chef brought them in herself, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, then let's take a 10-minute at ease, and then we'll be back to start the public hearings. Cookie break. If we could go ahead and have the council members join us on the dais and everyone, then we'll go ahead and restart the meeting. We're missing Councilmember Petty.
Cookies were too good. She's coming.
You see her?
She came and then she kind of dispersed it.
All right. So, Councilmember Petty, we're ready to begin again. Here we go. Okay, we're at public hearings.
I didn't think there'd be a shortage in this world of clear but there are.
Okay, we're going to restart the meeting. We're at item D, public hearings. The first item is ordinance number 32482021, accepting and appropriating a collection equity award from the network of the National Library of Medicine Region 5 for the purchase of health and wellness titles for the Kenai Community Library collection brought forth by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Naxtat.
Thank you. I move to enact ordinance 3248-2021.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilmember Petty. The ordinance has been moved and seconded. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to ordinance number 3248-2021? Yes. Please come forward and state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Sharon F. to 610 Laurel Drive. So what do we know about the titles and the materials that they want to purchase for the library?
So generally, the council doesn't answer questions, but I would defer to administration and the library director if you would like to address what's known about the titles, et cetera.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I actually would refer to Katja Wolf, library director. She can speak with.
Thank you. So we're going to be purchasing, like I said, health and wellness titles, consumer health titles. Topics include things like stress release, let's see, where's my list? Self-care, mental health, healthy habits, dealing and living with chronic conditions, dealing and living with chronic stress, caregiver support, suicide prevention, traditional medicine, traditional knowledge, complementary, non-Western medical books, reference books about Medicare and Medicaid, health literacy books, so how to be able to find information and speak to your doctor about conditions that you might have. We are also going to purchase items on specific conditions, for example, cancer, ADHD, all kinds of different conditions, and then also women's health and men's health titles.
Are there any COVID titles?
I don't have a complete list yet. Right now, I don't have any COVID titles, no.
Would you put a list out of everything so that the council could see it before they just make a blanket decision tonight?
So this item's up for a public hearing and for action by the council, so that would be up to the council. That's not a decision for the director.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I would encourage you to actually look at what's going to be bought with this money before you make a decision and just rubber stamp it.
Thank you. And do you have any other comment that you'd like to make? You have some more time.
Well, I think it's irresponsible to just blanket rubber stamp something that you don't know anything about. You don't know everything about, just, it wouldn't hurt to just have her make a list of what the titles would be and have that out for everybody to see and decide whether, you think that's right or not.
And would you, do you care to stand for a question?
Sure.
Okay, Councilmember Winger.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Ms. Sharon, thank you for coming and testifying. I too would like to see more of a list of what type of material is included. I did look into the entity in which is awarding the grant, and that too would leave me a little room of concern of what type of material would be included. So I appreciate you coming and testifying to that tonight.
I would like to see you all table this until you've got more information.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to speak to ordinance number 3248, 2021? Yes, sir. Though I recognize you, again, please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. It's Dave Peck, and I'm at 705 Sycamore Street in Kenai. First off, Councilwoman Atkins gave me an email that she got from Katya Wolf, Katya right there, basically itemizing the subjects of the books, and I don't think anybody else has got this up there, so I just wanted to tell you that I have this. My problem with and I'm the author of the letter that's in your packets.
Yes.
The only problem I have with this is the things that are listed on here is just fine. In a library, libraries have lots of topics. I don't have any issue with that. My issue is this is called a health equity grant, and in the whereases they talk about purchasing materials for underrepresented groups based on census data and informal community conversations. I'm just wondering who is underrepresented and what does the grant require that separates it from simply purchasing library materials. I'm not sure that the things that are in this list wouldn't be available to anyone. It's not necessarily going to help an underrepresented group. And I think equity can create division rather than unity. And I'm wondering if this is enhancing some sort of a federal agenda or requirements that are attached to this money, which would not necessarily represent the views of people of Kenai or even the city council. That's basically my thing with this, is that term equity. There's a lot of meaning to the term equity. Yeah. It implies that someone or some people are not being represented in the community somehow, or they're, that they're somehow not equal to everyone else. I just don't believe that's true. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Peck. Would you care to stand for any questions or comments?
Sure. Councilmember
Winger.
I just want to say thank you for reaching out to us via email a couple weeks ago and then coming to testify on this. That list would have been helpful to be emailed across to the entire body. It's still something I would like to see. So I appreciate you bringing forth the fact that there is a list circulating out there, and I would like to see that list before we take a vote to know more on the material myself. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll take a pause for a minute for the clerk to make a copy to distribute to the council members. Excuse me, the deputy clerk.
Can you scan and email that to me, Megan?
Mayor Gabriel's requested that, scan and email.
While we're in a pause here, maybe a quick question for administration. Bob, is this time sensitive, Paul?
And I was going to ask the manager if he wanted to make a report, but there's no reason he couldn't answer that right now.
should we do this, point of order, should we do this while we're at an ease?
Well, I think we might be still recording, I'm not sure, so why don't we hold off? We'll wait till the deputy clerk is back, unless the clerk can, unless the clerk by Zoom can let us know if we're still recording or not.
You are still recording.
Okay, so since we're still recording, we're on the record. So I would say to, Mayor Gabriel's question's not inappropriate, and Mr. Ostrander, you're welcome to go answer it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I defer to Ms. Wolf to tell us how time sensitive this is.
The final report for this grant is due in May of 2022. So we have a little bit of time to work on that. We were hoping to purchase the books by the end of November.
Thank you.
Councilmember Glendenning.
Yeah, just a procedural question. Would it be possible to postpone this till the next meeting or the meeting after so we can get the information that's being asked for?
And that would be a subject to discuss in council discussion, and that's not any reason. Well, you heard what Ms. Wolf said about time sensitiveness, so.
Point of order.
Yes, point of order.
Point of order, Vice Mayor Malloy. I didn't mean to cut off if there was any further public testimony on this.
Yes, we're just getting this the email distributed, and so while we're going to take another minute on pause so that council can read the email, and then we'll continue with the public testimony. And this is, for the record, this is an email from Katja Wolf, our library director, dated Wednesday, October 20, 2021, to Councilmember Askin. All right then, is there anyone else from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance number 3248, 2021? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. I know it's doing it again, Ms. Hutchinson, and then you have 3 minutes.
My name is Christine Hutchison. I'm still at 281 Julietson Street, just off Beaver Loop. My concern with this ordinance, and this is a starting thing for me, is one of the problems I believe we have out of Washington is their continual overreach beyond their responsibilities outlined in the Constitution. It has to do with money. And that overreach reaches right into the sovereignty of our states and right straight down to our cities. Now, this is not a lot of money. I couldn't quite figure out from the ordinance if they're going to give us $1,500 and we're going to match it $1,500 for a total of $3,000. I was unclear there. It doesn't really matter. This is $1,500 coming from the federal government. Now, I had a few minutes while we were taking these breaks to ask a question of Mr. Eubanks, because I'm real interested in how much of our budget, this is just a nice place to start, how much of our budget comes from the federal government. Now, I know that we all have a cell phone and we all have bells and whistles at home and we all have a 75-inch TV and we're wonderfully situated for all the lusciousness of this country. But we've got to cut back, and we should start right here at home. Now, you cannot tell me that in that library she does not have a bunch of books on cancer or a few books on whatever's listed on that piece of paper. I read it. You just can't tell me she doesn't have half a dozen books there. I just won't believe it, because she's got a whole lot of books. Now, I ask you to reject this. It's $1,500 or $3,000. I do not know what it is. It's not a large amount of money. I've been involved with groups of people that can raise that amount of money with cookies and cakes. Seriously, kids raise that amount of money with a car wash. We have to start somewhere. Now, we are not, according to Mr. Eubanks, with the exception of the airport. I push the airport out because they're a whole different entity and they have a whole different control over our city. But let's just push it back to the airport. Let's just leave it at the airport. Now, in the next couple of weeks, I got a minute and a half, in the next couple of weeks, you'll get a list of all the books wants to order, the librarian wants to order. But I still cannot believe she doesn't have other books that cover these subjects. And I would ask you to simply reject this. I mean, the Library Council, the Friends of the Library, can't they raise $1,500 to buy these books? We have to start somewhere, and we're very lucky because we don't have, thank you, Mr. Eubanks, we don't have an extensive budget beyond the airport that comes from the federal government. I'm sure there's other places in this state that are absolutely smitten and buried in federal money. I don't think the city of Kenai is one of them. Let's start to cut back. Let's just cut back. Let's just go strictly vegetables and skip all the desserts and do something for our city and say no to the federal government. I'd sure appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. Are there any questions or comments for Ms. Hutchinson? Councilmember Glendenning.
Yeah. So are you suggesting that we postpone this action to a future meeting so we can get an inventory of the proposed purchases?
Yeah, and I'd like to see a little cross-reference of anything that's already in, and I'm sure with computers today, I'm sure she can spit out an inventory of what's in that library. And can tell me there are not some a little bit of matching, 2 or 3 books that are covered already in this subject area. But I know 2 or 3 weeks, look at the list, consider it, and I'll be back to ask you to reject it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Is there anyone else in the general public who would like to speak to this ordinance? Seeing none on the floor, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak to ordinance number 3248, 2021? And I see a hand raised, Patricia's iPad. And if that person would like to speak, they could, you know. Oh, okay, that was a mouse. All right. Madam Clerk, do you see anyone asking to be recognized?
No, I do not.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing, then take it back to council for discussion. Any discussion by council? Councilmember Nexted.
Thank you. Yeah, my understanding is this just replenishes a section of the library, and we get grants all the time for different other sections and things, and there's a grant coming up right after this one as well. I guess I wouldn't mind seeing what the titles are, but it's not completely pertinent to me. I mean, I've been in the library where they have the banned book week or whatever, and we're talking Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn, things like that, all the classics that I don't think you can get in school, but you can go to the library and get them there. And I do check those books out too, periodically. I go back and read them. But at any rate, they're there and they're available, and I appreciate that. And I would be cautious about anybody finding a title that they question and kind of reject because of a perception, kind of like Huck Finn or Tom Sawyer or any one of those. And it's kind of a slippery slope to go on. And but I guess I probably said enough on that. I certainly wouldn't mind if somebody wanted to make a motion to postpone after comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Nexted. Is there any other discussion by council? Councilmember Glendenning.
Yeah, I make a motion to postpone this ordinance until our first meeting in November. That will give us more time to get the information that's been requested by the public. This is not due until mid-22, early 2022, and so I don't think it would put anybody at a disadvantage, and we would honor the requests of our audience, and we'd get some more information and maybe understand how the library functions, and I think will be to our advantage, everyone's advantage. Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded to postpone. Is there any discussion on postponement? City Manager has a question. Go ahead,
Thank
Mr.
you, Vice
Ostrander.
Mayor Malloy. I need to understand from council what you're requesting. Do you want a complete list of the titles that we're going to purchase with the money, or just an expansion on what Ms. Wolf provided?
I understand that Ms. Wolf is able to provide an expanded understanding of what is going to be purchased. I thought that was her offer. Is that correct?
I would defer to Ms. Wolf. I don't know if she's ready to provide you with the exact titles that she can provide, but she can let us know if she can provide that for the council.
I do not have a list ready yet, but I could supply a sample of the titles if you would like.
I had suggested the first meeting in November with the second meeting in November, or there's no meeting, second meeting, first meeting in December. Would that give you ample time?
Sure.
Can I?
Go ahead, Mr. Ostrander. Just going to complete the report first, and then we'll get back to you. And Ms. Winger, I see your light too. We'll get back to you too.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I just want to let folks know that the library director was budgeted $59,000 last year to purchase books for the library. And that is totally up to her discretion and the discretion of the folks that work for her. They consistently weed the library for titles that are out of date. They replace them with more up-to-date titles. You know, it's something that is completely within her discretion. Katja does a great job of consistently looking for ways to supplement that money so that we can provide more books for the public. She's consistently looking to expand the titles in the library, and she's trying to provide as many titles as she can to satisfy the needs of the residents of the city. So just, I wanted you to know that there's already every year over $60,000 worth of books that she purchases. And I do think that looking at each one of those title by title and determining which are or are not appropriate is a very slippery slope that we need to be careful of.
Thank you, Mr. Ostrander. So before I get to you, Councilmember Winger, I was going to see if Mr. Glendenning was going to amend his motion.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I would amend my motion to postpone consideration of this ordinance until the first meeting of December, and that will allow us to get the information requested by the public. Thank you.
And do we have the concurrence of the second?
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead, Councilmember Winger.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I just would like to reiterate, even though we do give Ms. Katja total access with that $59,000 budget, when our constituents come to us with concerns on whatever books may be in that library, it's still our job and obligation to look at it. With that being said, I want to say thank you, Katja. I know these aren't easy to apply for. They do take time. I appreciate everything you're doing. You do run amazing programs at the library. When it comes to the specific one, I do have concern myself. When I looked into the network of the National Library of Medicine, their content that they put out isn't anything within reference of the items that we would be carrying. So all their content was based off of COVID, getting the vaccine, without getting too in-depth. Everything that they had posted was really COVID related, and not anything material-wise of what would be in the list. So that's where I have a little concern, and I would just like to see that detailed list, just because what they present on their page and what we're bringing in are two very different looking things. So getting that list and providing it would just give me better clarification. And I just want to say again, thank you for everything you do.
Councilmember Petty.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I would like to ask the library director if she is at liberty to choose, or is she restricted from this grant with a restricted list of books that you have to choose from, ma'am?
No, we're not restricted. It is up to us to choose the books that we feel are appropriate in the library and items that we think are needed in our community.
Thank you. And then also, I wanted to make reference for everyone that's here. after the very last whereas in section 1, it does indicate that this is a grant and that it comes from the state of Alaska, and that it is not a federal grant. Also, making sure that we have books that represent different points of view in our library, and not censoring information, and protecting our freedom of speech and freedom of access is highly important. And so I wanted that to be said as a reminder for everyone present as they're scrutinizing and possibly checking off, no, I don't like that book, or yeah, that book is approved, and how that could certainly jeopardize our opportunity for freedom of speech and freedom of access and being censored. So thank you. I will agree to consider this postponement so that the greater information can come forth. When individuals like the library director is looking for resources so as to make our library as robust as possible, because she is on a designated budget, and these grants come forth to benefit our community and our library, so that all have equal access to that. And sometimes the wording is not what I would like, but sometimes people who write that don't understand the importance of words. So I want to thank you for putting this forth so as to give our city and our community greater access. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Petty. Mayor Gabriel, do you have any comment that you wanted to add on the issue of postponement?
No, I would just like to say that I do support postponement at this time, just for better clarification for folks who showed up to testify.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel.
And also like to say that I appreciate the work of our library director. She does a great job, and I'm sure that this will turn out fine.
Certainly agree with you there. So seeing no other discussion, I would like to call the vote on the motion to postpone.
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Does anyone object? Seeing no objection, ordinance number 3248-2021 is postponed to the first meeting in December. Moving on, the second item for public hearing is ordinance number 3249-2021, accepting and appropriating funding from the American Library Association for the Kenai Community Library's participation in the NASA at My Library Programming Initiative brought forth by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3249-2021.
Second.
The ordinance has been moved and seconded. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak about this ordinance? Okay, seeing no one from the public in the room, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak to this ordinance? And I don't see any raised hands on Zoom, and the clerk is agreeing with that. So close the public hearing, take it back to council for discussion. Councilmember Winger.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I have a question for Ms. Kacha on this, if possible.
Certainly, through the city manager, if you'd like to defer to Ms. Wolf, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. I was just wondering, because this is kind of part of the whole NASA program, I was wondering if you were participating any of this with the Challenger Learning Center, or if they were going to have any involvement working on this with you.
Thank you for that question. We've contacted them when we wrote this grant, and they agreed to be a partner. So we are going to be working with them, yes.
That's great. I look forward to seeing more advertisement on this, and hopefully we can really target the homeschool population as well with this.
Thank you, Councilmember Winger. Is there any other discussion by council? Councilmember Glendenning.
Yeah, just a comment from my own experience. I remember as a child watching Buck Rogers movies, and to me it opened up the possibilities of what is out there in space, or living in the Midwest. Sometimes there were clear winter nights and just looking up at the stars and wondering what was there, or even now we have William Shatner just did a suborbital voyage, and who knew Captain Kirk actually would go up into space? And I think the idea of talking about the telescope, the first telescopic images, and then incorporating a summer reading program, I think will greatly benefit our understanding of not only our world but what's out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Winger.
Thank you. I forgot one follow-up question, if I may.
Yes, sure. Go ahead. Is it through the city manager to the library director?
Yes, please.
Is that all right with you? Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I forgot to ask about the STEM program part of that. Are you going to be working with the local elementary schools in their STEM program? I know in particularly Mountain View Elementary reaches their capacity probably within like 5 minutes of opening it for the kids. So there's definitely a greater need in the schools. Are you going to be partnering that part with some of those programs?
We have not contacted specific schools yet, but that is part of the grant as well. Yes, we are going to be doing that and hopefully be able to get information out to the schools and maybe even help us put those STEM kits together.
I think that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't see any other comments from council. Mayor Gabriel, do you have any comment?
No, not this time.
Okay. Seeing no other comment, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Glendenning.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Malloy.
Yes.
Councilmember Petty.
Yes.
Councilmember Winger.
Yes.
Councilmember Naxtat.
Yes.
Student Representative Faulkner.
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel.
Yes.
Councilmember Askin.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So ordinance number 3249, 2021 is enacted. Next item is for public hearing is item 3, ordinance number 3250, 2021, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the Vintage Point Enterprise Fund and awarding a contract for a resident maintenance manager for the Vintage Point Congregate Housing Facility brought forth by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Naxtat.
Oh, thank you. I move to enact ordinance 3250, 2021.
I'll second that.
Thank you. This ordinance has been moved and seconded. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to this ordinance? And earlier, yes, please come forward. You were going to speak to it earlier. Mr. Steiner spoke to it during consent agenda.
My name is Yenti Vergan. Actually, I want to follow Steiner's.
Yes, and your address?
Yeah, I live in the Vintage Point, 381.
Thank you.
Senior Court. My name is Yenti Vergan. I'm new to Kenai, actually. So I just want to support this, our manager. You know, I really haven't been to too many places, but he is a really super guy. You guys awarded his contract. You don't know how many people in our Vintage Point is so happy. We just couldn't come tonight because we have some active case COVID in there, and the people wanted to come, but they couldn't. So I volunteered. I said, I come over here to speak for everybody, and including Steiner. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you don't know, we really, really, really appreciate from deep of our heart.
Councilmember Winger.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you for coming in and testifying. I know it takes a lot to get out of the house these days to come in, so I appreciate you coming in for public, both of you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I really, this is also, sorry, it's kind of eye-opener to me. I didn't know the protocols with all the city council the first time in a big city. Kenai is a big city.
And Mr. Steiner, did you have anything you wanted to add to your previous comments?
I couldn't be happier how this goes on.
And for your previous comments, would it be okay to have them applied to this this ordinance in the minutes? Have your previous comments applied to this ordinance? Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else from the general public who'd like to speak to ordinance number 3250-2021? Seeing no one in the chambers, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak to this ordinance? And I don't see anybody raising their hand. So I would close the public hearing, take it back to council for discussion. Councilmember Winger.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I'd like to thank the testimonies we heard tonight. I know I have an 85-year-old grandma that we've struggled to find adequate housing for her. I know it's not easy to get out and come do these testimonies, so I just want to say thank you. As well as I fully support this initiative. I do have a question for Manager Ostrander.
Manager Ostrander, City Manager.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. One thing I noticed in this contract is the building manager has to be on call. And is there a reason why he's not allocated a cell phone allowance like other employees that are required to be on call?
Go ahead.
Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Winger, so he's a contractor, so because he's a contractor, we don't give him a cell phone stipend as if he were an employee.
Thank you.
Councilmember Nexted.
Vice Mayor Malloy.
Oh, yes, okay. Go ahead, Mayor Gabriel.
I just wanted to point out that there's a suggested amendment to this ordinance. It might be, maybe that was something that Councilmember Nexted was going to speak to.
Do you want to go ahead and make that amendment, Mayor Gabriel, or do you want to leave it to Councilmember Nexted?
Yeah, I can go ahead and do that. I'd
Very
like
good.
to make a motion to add a new I would like to add a new section 2 that reads that the city manager is authorized to execute a contract for the resident maintenance manager for the Vintage Point Congregate Housing Facility with Sadler Property Management for the remainder of fiscal year 2022 in the amount of $55,503. And then for fiscal years 2023 and 2024 in the amount of $74,004 annually. Ask unanimous consent.
Yeah.
Did he miss it?
And do you also want to renumber the current sections 2 and 3 to 3 and 4?
Oh, yes, please. And then also, yeah, to renumber the current sections 2 and 3 to 3 and 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel.
Second, and request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested to the amendment. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, the ordinance is amended. Is there any more discussion on the ordinance as amended? Councilmember Glendening.
Yeah, just chime in here just briefly. Want to thank Kathy Romaine, our Senior Center Director, for finding and how can we say, nurturing this maintenance manager position. Every time I'm in that building, it looks almost brand new. And if you look at the duties that this individual has to do, it is 24/7, and he is required to do a lot of hands-on things. I believe this is excellent value for our community and for our seniors that actually depend on someone being vigilant and cares about what he does. And that ends my comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Nexted.
Thank you. I suppose through the city manager, I think it would be good for us to hear a couple of things. Perhaps if Kathy could address it, would be why the need to have somebody on site all the time. And I think we know, but I think we probably don't know like she knows, and she could probably give us some great insights into that. And also there is a price increase and just kind of a discussion on, quite a significant one as far as that goes. So perhaps it was quite low before, but those two items.
City Manager Ostrander.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Naxted. I would like Ms. Romaine to speak to that.
Thank you, Ms. Romaine.
Thank you. Council, through City Manager Ostrander, I think we get a good price for what we get through our on-site manager. I think the reasoning for an on-site manager, we don't have 4 apartments, we don't have 10 apartments, we have 40 apartments. And also consider the age. Our average age at Vintage Point, while we do accept individuals from 60 years on, we have one lady who is 102, still living independently. And so the average age at Vintage Point ranges from 83 to 87, which is considerable things to think about. When we did the RFP in 2016, it was kind of a new system for us. It was a new, we were really looking to ensure that this was a contracted position separate from an employee. And we would not get an employee for $74,000 a year for a full-time employee. We couldn't afford a full-time employee at that rate. And so the amount was brought up. It was, this was the on-site manager at that time who proposed, that was his proposal, and we went with it. It was a new experience for us. It was the first time that we didn't provide an apartment for the on-site manager, and that changed in 2016. So out of $74,000 that he will now be getting, over $12,500 of that will come back in rent that he now pays to the city for that, which shows an increase. He also does this, the on-site contractor, the maintenance manager, it's done on a 3-year contract. We put this one at 2 years and 9 months to put it concurrent with the fiscal year, which will make us not have to come back to council for that purchase order again every October. We then will have 2 more years that it could possibly extend that 3-year contract that it starts with, or 2 years and 9 months. This will ensure, this gentleman, this contractor is bidding on, actually, it could be 5 years looking forward, and the last bid he got was 5 years ago, and we extended that contract 2 years. So anyway, I think that if you'd ask the tenants, and there have been times that this has come up and this room has been flooded with tenants. So there was a point in the past where it was discussed possibly not having an on-site, and I'm pretty sure you heard from almost every tenant at Vintage Point. There are, that is one of the reasons we have such a waiting list, is because our facility is an on-site manager. It makes all the difference. Our building is aging. We've had a dry and wet sprinkler system and pipes freeze in the middle of the night. It seems like accidents don't happen during the daytime. They usually happen at night, especially when it's cold. Having an on-site manager has saved us substantially from incredible damages. So I think it is, it's very worthy. I think we get a good deal for what we're paying.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Okay, then, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I missed who seconded that. I didn't hear it.
I'm sorry?
I missed who seconded the initial motion. I didn't hear it.
It was Ms. Askin seconded. Sorry.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Malloy, your vote for enactment.
Yes.
Councilmember Petty?
Yes.
Councilmember Winger?
Yes.
Councilmember Naxted?
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel?
Yes.
Councilmember Askin?
Yes.
Councilmember Glendinning?
Yes.
Student Representative Faulkner?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Ordinance number 3250-2021 is enacted. Next item that we have on the agenda is ordinance number 3251-2021. Now, first, I want to say before I read the ordinance that the process for this ordinance is a little bit different than most ordinances, and that's due to the fact that this ordinance is part of the a later action item where we are going to be taking up the issue of approving an employment agreement between the city and City Clerk Michelle Sainer. And so there's some money issues that need to be addressed so that we could address that later action item. So this item, number 4, is ordinance number 3251, 2021, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the general fund clerk department for costs in excess of budgeted amounts due to the resignation of the city clerk and onboarding of a new city clerk brought forth by the city council. And item 1 is a motion for introduction. Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to introduce ordinance 3251, 2020.
I'll second that.
It's been seconded and moved to introduce. And the next item is a motion for, item 2, a motion for a second reading. Pleasure of council. Councilmember
Vice Mayor Malloy, we need to vote on that.
Request unanimous consent.
Oh, yeah, but before moving on to item 2, thank you for the correction. The unanimous consent has been requested to introduction. No, it's my bad. Does anyone object to unanimous consent? Seeing no objection,
No
I thank you.
objection.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Brian, Mayor Gabriel, did you object?
No, I said no objection.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the ordinance is now introduced, and so then I would ask council for their pleasure on item number 2 relating to this ordinance. Motion for second reading. Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move for the second reading of ordinance 3251, 2021.
I second it and request unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to unanimous consent? Councilmember Glendenning.
None, but do we have to have an actual reading?
I'm going to do that, yes. So this would be for the motion for adoption, item 3. And the second reading, this is again ordinance number 3251, 2021, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the general fund clerk department for costs in excess of budgeted amounts due to the resignation of the city's clerk and onboarding of a new city clerk brought forth by city council. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3251, 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I want to thank council for their help working through that process. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to ordinance number 3251, 2021? Seeing no one in the room, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak to this ordinance? And I don't see anyone on Zoom asking to be recognized. So I'll close the public hearing, take it back to council. Discussion? Does anyone want to comment? Seeing no comment, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
So we'll call the roll. I missed who seconded the motion to enact.
The motion to enact, I think it was Councilmember Petty, but no, it was Councilmember Glendenning. I'm sorry. Councilmember Glendenning.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Councilmember Petty, how do you vote on enactment?
Yes.
Councilmember Winger?
Yes.
Councilmember Naxted?
Yes.
Student Representative Faulkner?
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel?
Yes.
Councilmember Askin?
Yes.
Councilmember Glendenning?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Malloy?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So ordinance number 3251, 2021 is enacted. Next, item 5 is resolution number 2021-61, opposing the Doyon Coalition redistricting map as presented, brought forth by council members Naxted and Penny. A pleasure of council. Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you. I move to approve Resolution 2021
Second that.
61.
Second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to Resolution 2021-61? Seeing none on the floor, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak to Resolution 2021-61? And I don't see anyone on Zoom asking to be recognized, so close the public hearing, bring it back to council, discussion by council. Councilmember Petty.
Yes, I would like to encourage all of my colleagues to vote affirmatively for not recognizing this districting here, so that our city would not be broken up and that we would all be in one space. And it would save with perhaps the voting and reduce confusion for everyone in the city. And if they would, if this particular proposal would keep our city whole, I would be in favor of it. But the way it is right now, I could not support this one. Thank you.
Councilmember Weir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I have a question for the sponsoring council members. I was just curious if either one of you had gone to the public participation meeting that they held last week on the redistricting, and if you testified against this. Thank you.
Councilmember Naxted.
I had duties in that chair right there that night, Airport Commission.
Thank you. Councilmember Petty.
Yes, and I had previous engagements that prevented me from being there. Thank you.
And then I would just like to say, for the record, that I did go to that meeting, and I did testify to the Alaska Redistricting Board in opposition to the Doyon proposal as an individual member of council. I made it clear that it was not the position of the council. I notified them that this resolution was being brought by Councilmember Naxted and Petty and would be for public hearing tonight. And they asked, they basically indicated that it would be good to get a copy of it from the clerk, before their public comment period closed. And when I indicated that we were hearing it tonight, they said, well, that's sufficient time. Thank you. Councilmember Winter.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Just to follow up on that, how was the overall testifying? Were they opposing or supporting? That was really my question to who may have been in participation. Thank you.
Okay, so the first person that actually testified was Mary Jackson, used to a long time aide to legislators, and she encouraged the redistricting board to make 3 districts out of the peninsula and not carve out any piece of Nikiski and not carve out Fritz Creek, but to keep all the population together. There was other people that also supported that, and people from Nikiski, particularly, that testified against carving Nikiski out. There was basically, people that testified didn't have any support for the Doyon proposal and did not support breaking the city of Kenai up into pieces. Most of the testimony favored the board's versions 3 or versions 4.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Or, I'm sorry,
Vice
Vice
Mayor.
Mayor Malloy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thanks. Councilmember Glendenning.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Yeah, I too attended the meeting, and as you said, the support was overwhelming to not adopt the Doyon coalition. The comment was made that the Kenai Peninsula. And first-class home rule cities are not party favors to be doled out on a whim. And and I think we did a fine job of representing our, in the public comments, representing our borough and our city. And I'm hopeful that this Dion Coalition redistricting map, this proposal, will be rejected. Thank you.
Councilmember next.
Sounds like most was already covered, but I just wanted to point out the Dion Coalition redistricting map as presented. The area that it cuts out specifically is in the Silver Salmon Drive area near Strawberry Road, and that is the specific location.
Thank you.
You see
Are there any other discussion? And seeing no other discussion,
request unanimous consent.
Councilmember next has requested unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, resolution number 2021-61 is approved by unanimous consent. This brings us to new business. First item is item 4, action approval, reappointment of Rachel Craig to the Council on Aging, brought forth by Mayor Gabriel. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Askin.
I move that we reappoint Rachel Craig to the Council on Aging.
I second that and request unanimous consent.
Moved and seconded, unanimous consent has been requested. Does anyone object to it? Unanimous consent? Seeing no objection, Rachel Craig reappointed to Council on Aging. Next, item 5 is action approval item, approving an employment agreement between the City of Kenai and City Clerk Michelle Sainer, brought forth by the City Council. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you, Mayor. Vice Mayor, I move that we approve the employment agreement between the City of Kenai and the City Clerk, Michelle Sainer.
I second that.
Request unanimous consent.
It's been approved and seconded, and unanimous consent has been requested. Is there anyone who objects to unanimous consent? Seeing no objection, the employment agreement between the City of Kenai and City Clerk Michelle Sainer is approved. Next item is item 6, action approval of special use permit to Alaska Geographic for a vending kiosk in the airport terminal, brought forth by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Winger.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special use permit to Alaska Geographic for a vending kiosk in the airport terminal.
Second.
It's been approved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Winger.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I had a question for City Manager Ostrander.
And please go ahead.
Thank you. I was wondering what type of vending kiosk this is. Just by the name of the company, it doesn't quite seem like a soda pop candy bar vending machine. And maybe I'm hoping for something cool and exotic that we're seeing in other airports. So.
City Manager Ostrander, please.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Winger. It's not soda pop and candy bars, I can tell you that. As far as specifically what's in there, it's Kenai National Wildlife knickknacks that people can purchase through the vending machine. Mr. Conway told me some of the items that they're going to sell, but I don't recall what they were specifically. But things that are that the Kenai National Wildlife Refuge and Alaska Maritime Refuge is selling that might be of interest to visitors.
Thank you. I think that's great to have an option to get souvenirs since there isn't a gift shop in our local airport, so thank you.
Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to report on that as part of the Airport Commission meeting that we had. So I'll do that now. The Airport Commission unanimously recommended the approval of this. And out of their packet, it says that this vending kiosk will sell interpretive educational products related to the Kenai National Wildlife Refuge and Alaska Maritime Wildlife Refuge. It doesn't have the specifics of what they are, but that's what it is in a vending machine. It'll be located kind of opposite of the baggage claim area.
Thank you, Councilmember Nexted. Any other discussion? Seeing none.
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Does anyone object to unanimous consent? Seeing no objection, the special use permit to Alaska Geographic for a vending kiosk in the airport terminal is approved. Next, item 7 is a discussion regarding the Kenai Dog Park. We had received a letter from Pat Porter at the last meeting and some public comment, and we have as a lay down a memorandum from the city manager, and Mayor Gabriel had asked for this discussion item. So I would ask Mayor Gabriel if he had any comments that he wanted to lead off with for the discussion.
Point of order?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Just so you know, my internet connection is getting a little bit.
Excuse me, Mayor Gabriel. Mr. Glendenning wants to raise a point of order.
Yeah, is it possible to have this discussion put off till the new council members are seated? The reason I'm asking is that there are individuals involved with this program who are unavailable to testify tonight during the proper time in our meeting, and I think we would have a more productive discussion, more robust discussion, if they were able here to testify and make their observations. Thank you.
So that's not really a point of order. It's a issue for discussion, and if you want to make a motion during the discussion, you could do that. I would go ahead and ask Mayor Gabriel to go ahead and lead off the discussion to begin with, and then we'll see where it goes. Go ahead, Mayor Gabriel.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. The whole point of basically requesting this, I know we had several folks from this dog park group that was before council last meeting to testify, and we've gotten some correspondence from our former mayor, Pat Porter, who's a big push behind this and with the requested funds. But it's a little bit, the sort of journey how we got here has been a little bit convoluted. It's not your normal improvement project that just kind of gets designed, money appropriated, and then construction and that sort of thing. So I thought it was worthwhile to have the discussion of where we started and where we're at, and where maybe council's idea of where they want to go with this. I don't have an objection to, it's not time sensitive as far as I'm concerned. So I don't have an objection to postponing either. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Councilmember Winger.
I would be in support of postponing it for the next meeting as well, to give the opportunity to the people from the dog park to be here to present again to the body.
Councilmember Glendenning.
Yes, and I support that also. As I stated in my opening statements, many of the individuals who are germane to the success of this dog park were unavailable to be here tonight to testify at the appropriate time during our deliberations. And since this is a moving target that's on into 22, I see that we could perhaps have a more productive discussion with all involved being present. Thank you.
Yes, and it is a discussion item. There's no specific action, or approval, if the council wants to continue the discussion at another meeting, it's certainly within their prerogative.
Thank you.
Councilmember Nexted.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I wanted to say I really appreciate all that the Vice Mayor, or the former Mayor Porter has done in this, and she's raised and is in the Kenai Community Foundation cash in hand, almost $30,000 unspent, unencumbered. So she's done a very good job, and it's early in the process. She's got her phase 1 funded, not completed. It's seeded. the fencing isn't quite up. It was supposed to have been back in September, but I think that's supposed to happen soon. So she's actually done very well, and I think, you know, the fundraising that she's continuing to do, she'll probably reach her goal as she goes through the continuing phases. And also, I wanted to say that I do appreciate Home Depot for all that they have donated for at least other things. Home Depot was mentioned in the memo, and for not having donated to this particular project, but they have donated to other things, and they are a local business in our community that should be noted that they've contributed quite nicely to other things when they can.
Thank you. Councilmember Petty.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I would like to thank administration for providing the laydown for additional insight to this discussion. And with the postponement of this discussion, I would like that memo that the city manager provided for us to be included in the packet. Thank you.
And so is it the wish of council to continue the discussion at the next meeting?
My viewpoint, yes.
And so I'm seeing a majority of council, and the mayor indicated no problem with that.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. So the discussion would be an agenda item at the next council meeting. City Manager Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. If I could I ask for just a brief at ease? When council passed Ordinance 3250, 2021, there's an apparent conflict between what was passed in the ordinance in Section 2 and the contract itself, and I'd like just a moment to discuss with Ms. Romaine if she wants to see modifications, and if so, I would respectfully ask council to reconsider so I could mention what potentially could be changed in the ordinance.
Thank you.
Yes, so let's take an at ease, this one off the record, so that, you know, if we need to fix something, we can fix it tonight. So we'll take an at ease for what you need, 5 minutes? So the city council's back on the record. I want to thank the city manager for bringing something to our attention. Councilmember Nexted.
Thank you. I move to reconsider ordinance 3250, 2021.
Second that.
Okay, it's been seconded by Councilmember Petty. And so the motion for reconsideration of the ordinance requires a vote. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on the motion for reconsideration?
Councilmember Askins,
Yes.
Councilmember Nextet,
Yes. Yes.
Student Representative Faulkner,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Glendenning,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Malloy,
Yes.
Councilmember Petty.
Yes.
Motion to reconsider passes. That puts you right in the spot immediately before the motion was initially voted on.
Councilmember Nexted.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I wish to make an amendment to Section 2. That was a section we amended earlier. And right after the year 2024, insert the following words: "and for 2 successive one-year terms by mutual written consent of owner and contractor."
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember
Second.
Petty. And report by the city manager, please.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I'd like to explain why I asked to do this. So the original ordinance approved this contract for what amounted to 2 years and 9 months. The agreement itself actually allowed it to be a contract for 2 years and 9 months plus 2 one-year extensions. So this amendment makes it so that the ordinance actually allows us to award the agreement as it was written. So, and also this accurately reflects what was in the request for proposals, and the contractor actually proposed on the full 4 years and 9 months.
Thank you, City Manager Ostrander. Is there any other discussion on the amendment?
Request unanimous consent.
Yeah, unanimous consent has been requested on the amendment. Is there any objection? Okay, so then is there any discussion on the ordinance as amended? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll for the vote on the ordinance as amended?
Councilmember Nextet,
Yes?
Student Representative Faulkner,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Glendenning,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Malloy,
Yes.
Councilmember Petty,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So ordinance number 3250-2021 is enacted as amended. Now I think that we're at, if I'm not lost, we're at H, Commission and Committee reports. Council on Aging.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Our next time that we're going to meet on Council on Aging will be November the 11th. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Petty. Airport Commission.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Airport Commission met on October 14th, had 3 new business items. They discussed the Alaska Geographic vending kiosk that we discussed earlier and unanimously recommended approval of that. They also had a discussion recommendation. They recommended unanimously to, for Schilling and Rentals LLC, notice of application to lease land within the airport reserve. And I could give more detail on that if anyone wishes. Or and then the last one was discussion recommendation. They decided they moved their next meeting from November 11th, that happens to be a holiday, back to November 9th. And their next meeting will be November 9th.
Thank you. Councilmember Glendenning.
Yes, I'd ask Councilor Nexted to talk about the is it a medical transfer business? Your report would probably be more expansive than mine, if you would, please.
Councilmember Naxted.
I'm digging here what that is. It's the old Fish and Wildlife hangar that you might be familiar with, that they're looking at assigning a lease, general aviation, with SOAR Ministries. They entered an agreement to lease, yeah. And they're currently remodeling it right now. I think the roof is on and they're putting in walls, and actually I see an addition on there as well. Of course, they did $1.5 million worth of earthwork and other things there.
Thank you, Councilmember Naxted. Harbor Commission, no report. Their next meeting is Monday, November 8th, 6 p.m. here. Parks and Recreation Commission, Councilmember Winger.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Parks and Rec met on Thursday, October 7th. We had people from the community come and talk about the disc golf course over behind the Oilers. They have officially made a league here. They plan on hosting a upcoming tournament. They do play the disc golf year-round, so the specific group is out there in the winter. They do maintain the course, and they're really looking forward to kind of kicking off and offering more tournaments locally. And they're hoping to really just grow the sport. Apparently, there's an app that you can use to track if you're really into this disc golf. There's an app you can download and track your games, and they've seen just a huge increase. They said over 2,000 people recorded matches at that one alone, which was one of the highest use in all of the peninsula area. So it definitely gets used by this group. We also heard from Elaine Bryson about the little free library stations. If you're not familiar with them, there's these little cute little house stations. One's located on 4th and Forest, and they offer free books. As you can tell, there's a lot of need for reading with our local youth, and she's wanting to grow the little free library stations. We talked about additional areas that could potentially have one, and that could be near Old Town Park, Beaver Creek Park, the Kenai Library, the Kenai Dog Park, Cunningham Park, 4th Avenue. The green strips were all suggested locations. She's hoping that maybe businesses would want to sponsor it, or private individuals would want to sponsor one, and they would be able to grow and make a map of the locations that offer those. Some of the other things, over the weekend, the Parks and Recs and Beautification did the Pumpkin Fest. Heard nothing but great things, so I would like to say great job, Bob's in the audience. Great job, you guys. Countless people, all day post on Facebook how amazing. There were people that spent it for their anniversaries, their birthdays, family in town. There were some people that came down from Anchorage to do that event, so it's definitely drawing a lot of attention. It was a great, fun time. I believe somebody had some pumpkins and even went on an excursion in the airplane and dropped pumpkins sporadically throughout middle of nowhere. So the fun even went on afterwards. So again, I just want to say great job, you guys. These events are really well perceived in our community, and they definitely would like to see more, and just good job. And again, Bob, we're going to miss you. Thank you for your dedication and your service. And I know when I see people, they go, Bob's really leaving? He's really doing it? No way. No way. So I just want to say congratulations. Enjoy your time as a grandpa, and just thank you for everything.
Thank you, Councilmember Winger. Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. On the 13th of October, the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting met in chambers here. Had several items on the agenda. New business, we approved unanimously an extension of a lease to Schilling Rentals for general aviation apron subdivision number 1, amended lot 2, block 3, and Councilor Naxted made a very thorough report for me. Thank you. We approved amending the Kenai Municipal Code to promote for remote election participation. It's good to note that there actually must be a majority of commissioners present to enact this consideration. But actually, it does nothing more than just extend the concept of telephonic participation to remote electronic means. Also discussed were a plan for further training for the commissioners, ideas of just say when we have a meeting of the council to adjudicate maybe a decision of theirs that has been appealed, that those items could be debriefed to them, and so they understand what the discussion was and how we came to support their conclusion, or how we came to a different conclusion. And they all the commissioners seem to be glad that this type of thing would happen. They're also glad about the land management program. Comments were made and recorded in the notes. I'll just start from the top here. The next meeting is going to be the 27th in Chambers. And what we're going to talk about is airport lease, on-site land use. There's going to be a lease proposed. The land management will be further discussed, and they were glad to see that all commissioners are going to be involved, all commissions are going to be involved in the land management program. The meeting for the 10th of November, there's going to be 2 conditional use permits. And also it is noted that the meeting for November 24th is canceled. There was discussion about conditional use permit violations. There were 3 noted in the packet, and that is for further discussion on their part, and I won't comment at this time. And that ends my report. I just want to say, thanks to the planning director for being on top of the issues, and he's putting together a training packet, mostly feedback for the commissioners, so they know how their decisions are enacted, and perhaps even modified if we have a board of adjudication. And with that ends my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Glendenning. Beautification Committee.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Beautification Committee met on October 12th to discuss final preparation for the Pumpkin Festival. It was a fabulous success. I'm sorry I wasn't able to make it. That was the main topic of the conversation of our meeting, and then we had a short discussion on places that we're going to be, that flowers and stuff will be planted next year. And I believe there's another meeting scheduled for November 9th.
Thank you, Councilmember Askin. Mayor Gabriel, Mini Grant Steering Committee.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Under Mini Grant Steering Committee, there is no report other than we do have a application that we'll be considering, I think, the first week in November from the disc golf folks that Councilmember Winger had just mentioned. So stay tuned for that.
Thank you. And while you're up, the next item is the report of the mayor, if you want to give it to us.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I want to thank all the folks that showed up there again tonight to testify, and then everybody that ran this election cycle. We had James Duffield, Alex Dothett, and Victoria Askin. And I want to thank Vicki for her time serving the last year, filling Robert Peterkin's seat. She certainly did a good job, and I hope she considers possibly running again next year. I think she served the citizens of the city very well. I want to congratulate James Basin and Deborah Sonart, and to speak to Councilmember Winger's point about swearing in. We will put that on the agenda for the next meeting so we can do a swearing in public for their family members. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank Vice Mayor Malloy for his service on council for the last 16 years. I've served with Bob for 12 of the last 16, and I just want to say I really appreciate it. He taught me a lot. There's, you know, Bob and I think are apart on some issues, but and we had some pretty interesting meetings over the last 12 years. You know, we had to get through the comprehensive plan. Have had some there. But one thing I can say about Bob, and I really appreciated this, and it didn't take me very long once I got on council to dial in on this element that Bob brings, is that he always tries, in my opinion, there's an element to what he does that tries to make legislation a little bit better, you know, and a lot of it is just really detail oriented. It's probably part of him being a lawyer, but I certainly appreciated things that we would overlook sometimes, or may overlook, and maybe bring forth points that could be maybe unintended consequences down the road. And just wanted to mention, you know, certainly, Bob, I didn't mean to put you to work tonight on your last night. I'm sorry I'm not there. I wish, you know, I wish I could be there. You know, you serving as the vice mayor for the last 2 years, you did an excellent job. You served the city well, and I never had to worry, you know, when I asked you to step in and do an event that you wouldn't just, you know, be very professional and you know, be a good face for the city, which is, you know, the job of the mayor and vice mayor. You know, other than, you know, presiding over the meetings, that's the only other thing that you have that other council members don't, is you're the face of the city, and I think you serve that role very well. I think Deputy Clerk Megan Miss Thibodeau has something for you, and I'd like to maybe have her present it to you at this time. For your plaque for your years of service on the council and in service of the city of Kenai. And I see your wife is waving at you, Bob. Hold that up a little bit so she can get a good picture. That's one of the things I can see here on the. Hi, Christine. Thank you. And again, I can't say enough about you know, some of the things that I've learned from you, Bob, and your support. You know, not only for your service, you know, your support for me over the last 2 years as vice mayor, but your years on the council and service to the citizens of the city of Kenai. Certainly, I think they were well served, and I wish you luck moving forward in your endeavors. And you know, and as I said, since I wasn't going to be there tonight, I'm definitely planning on taking you out to dinner for all the help you've given me.
Thank you so much, Mayor Gabriel. Appreciate it. Definitely looking forward to doing dinner with you. I very much appreciate the plaque. Going to be very much appreciated. And right back at you. You know, I certainly learned a lot working with you, as I've learned from everybody. And you know, I've got a lot of names to mention, and including the current council members. I think we did the last 2 years were the most difficult ones of the time that I've been on council, because of all the impacts of the pandemic. And like I've said previously, I thought that you had great leadership, you know, and made, you know, it was definitely great leadership in very trying circumstances. And also, as I've said previously, this was a really easy job, you know, because you're really diligent and work really hard at the job of mayor, so there was very little to do. And I just, wish you well and hope you recover soon from your illness. And thanks again.
Thank you.
And so with that, we'll move on to administration reports and city manager.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. So a couple things tonight. We are working on a preliminary design for the airport runway rehabilitation. As council may recall, the runway, the main runway of the airport is going to be completely rehabilitated in the next 2 to 3 years. We had a coordination meeting with the consultants and FAA. And right now, preliminarily, it looks like the rehab will be replacing the runway exactly in the same width and length that it is currently. Jay Shogren and Dave Ross of the police department and I have been keeping updated on efforts by the Kenai Peninsula Homelessness Coalition. They're looking for a cold weather shelter for this winter, and they're also looking for a long-term shelter for homeless somewhere in the Central Peninsula area. Just today, we issued an intent to award to McKinley Research Group for the Kenai Waterfront Redevelopment Assessment and Feasibility Study. Council will be seeing a resolution to award that at your next meeting of November 3rd. We'll be interviewing for Parks and Rec Director over the next week or so. Really excellent group of candidates. We got 20 applications, and there were a lot of really good candidates there, so I'm excited to start interviewing those folks. Today, Senator Murkowski announced that there's $385,000 that was included in the appropriations bill to mitigate spruce bark beetle impacts to the city of Kenai. There was no money included in there pursuant to the requests from the borough, but I'm hopeful that that larger borough request can still be funded through a different mechanism. As council likely recalls, the borough request was, I believe, $35 million. But the $385,000 we'll be able to put to use in the city with spruce bark beetle mitigation here to benefit our residents. How much was that? $385,000. Is that for us? For the city of Kenai. On October 29th, there's going to be a retirement party for Mr. Bob Freites. It's going to be right here in council chambers, 11:30 to 1. I'd encourage council members to show up if you can. We were going to do a surprise party, but we were afraid that Bob couldn't handle a surprise, so we actually let him know beforehand. October 29th, here in council chambers, 11:30 to 1. Yeah, so I'd love to see council there to send Bob off on his retirement. And I will just take this moment to say that his time here with the city has been impressive, and the longevity that he's been here. There's so much institutional knowledge that goes away when Bob goes away. It's going to take us years to recover it. Hopefully he's taken really good notes over the years, but he will be missed. But we're going to send him off in the right way on the 29th. Bluff Project, small update. We met with HDR on October 4th. We expect the first project deliverables in December. Those will be 35%-ish completed drawings for that design. Then I'd also like to congratulate Ms. Sonart and Mr. Baisden on your election. I'm looking forward to working with both of you. I know in response to I think Mr. Glendenning earlier, they have already reached out and set up appointments with all of the directors to meet them where they work, so they're going to have an opportunity to do that. And we're going to follow that up with a meeting with myself to go over anything that they might want to discuss with me as well. I'd like to thank Victoria for the time that you were on the council. We didn't get to work together very long, but I really appreciated the hard work that you did for the city. And then lastly, Vice Mayor Malloy, we worked together for almost 5 years. I've worked with a lot of legislators over the 5 years I was here, and then the 5 years I was at the borough, and you're one of the best. And
very kind of you.
Really appreciate the work that you did for the city. And that's all I have, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions, Councilmember Winger?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, City Manager Ostrander. On the $385,000 that we were going to be receiving for the spruce bark, you said that was going to be for public use. So are we what's the envision on the public use? Will that include a spruce bark dump site location as well? What's the proposed use?
Through the
Go
Vice.
ahead, City Manager.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Winger. I just learned today that this money was coming our direction, so I don't really know anything about it. I will preface this with that the bill has not passed. It's just in the bill currently, so the funding may or may not come to fruition. If we get the funding, I think there's extensive work to be done with council to determine how exactly to spend those funds.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the City Manager? Mayor, Councilmember Glendenning.
Yes. If not now, in the next meeting, could you remind us of the schedule for the waterfront development? We had a pretty aggressive standard for meeting goals, and I'm thinking that, that timeline might slip a little bit, but maybe just give us a little update on where we're going from here. And you noted McKinley. That's a name that's known to us, correct?
Go ahead, Mr. Ostrander.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Glendenning. So the proposal that McKinley issued was for completion of their feasibility study in May. And that's approximately where we thought it would end up. And it is a known name, maybe not as much as because they're formerly known as the McDowell Group. So that's probably a more familiar name. But yeah, they're a very reputable firm based primarily out of Anchorage.
Councilmember Glendenning.
Excuse me. If the report's not till May, that would impact economic decisions by those participating in waterfront commerce for the 22 season. Is that correct?
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank
City
you,
Manager.
Councilmember Glendenning. Yes, it would. And one of the components that it does make it a lengthier process is the focus on the community engagement. So really making sure we refine and define that vision of the community there. But yeah, it would impact economic decisions for the 22 construction season.
Okay, thank you. And interested participants are or will be aware of this new timeline. Thank you.
Mayor Gabriel, did you have any questions of the City Manager?
No questions.
All right, then. City Attorney, Mr. Bloom.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I don't have any comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for the City Attorney? Okay, no questions. Mr. Bloom, thank you. City Clerk. I think you're muted, Ms. Hines.
Sorry. I need to advise you that the postponement of Ordinance 3248-2021 is not going to end up being a postponement. It is going to fall off the agenda at the end of the meeting. So administration will have to bring back another ordinance. They can bring it back to be introduced at the next meeting. That's pursuant to Kenai Municipal Code 115050 Order of Business, where it says that the city clerk shall maintain a list of tabled and pending items, and the list shall be stricken at the end of the meeting, at which the certification of a regular election of any council meeting member takes place. Today was that meeting, and I apologize that I forgot about that provision in code. This is the one meeting that it does apply to. The cure for that, regardless of what happened tonight, would have been to have them bring back a new ordinance at the next meeting. I also wanted to report that recruiting for the committee and commission reports or committee and commission members has begun. Their terms end on December 31st. We are recruiting for reappointments and new appointments, and we'll be appointing those members in the meetings in December. And I also wanted to thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, for your support for my office and the work that you've done for the city and the work that we accomplished together.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hines. Appreciate your comments. And then also, so what I'm understanding is that there would be a new ordinance in place of 3245-2021 that might be introduced the next meeting, and so then it would be up for public hearing at the meeting that it was postponed to originally. Is
correct?
Yes. Okay. So that's consistent with the, so we're good. Thank you very much. Okay, so that brings us to additional public comment. First is citizen comments. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment to the council at this time? Yes, please come forward. And I'm sorry you have to state your name and address for the record again, and you have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Ann Hoffman, P.O. Box 426, Sterling, Alaska. I have a question that in regards to the Alaska Geographic kiosk. I was curious who was sponsoring these machines or the machines that they're going to put in there, where the items are made, where do they come from? Are they Alaskan made? Or do they come from another origin? And who owns the business for this? Is it, because you'll be getting revenues, I'm sure, from, like a cut from something that they make. But my main onus is that I would like to know who is sponsoring this machine to come in down here. Are they an Alaskan group or are they outside influence? I think that's important since I've been here about 44 years, so we like to see Alaskan. And where were the items made? If we're buying items out of China, I find that unacceptable. We need to have Alaskan-made products for Alaskans, from Alaskans, for people who come to Alaska to do business with our community. The next thing that I'd like to address is when, say for instance, you were talking about some amendments that you were going to go over at the next meeting. And so some of this jargon is really new to me, so I don't know all of it, so you kind of have to bear with me. But when you amend something, do you take the original language and just strike a line through it and then put the other language that you're going to implement underneath there so that it gives some continuity to what we're reading? So for instance, if you were going to take out something that you guys decided not to vote on and it was a no-go, you strike that, you put a line through it, and then you put the new proposed language directly underneath there and not in a separate paragraph. I think that's how you do that, isn't it? So that's a question that, so if you're going to rewrite an amendment, the old language is still in the body of the letter or of the proposal with the new language underneath it so we can see where the differentiations are. Is that true, or am I just thinking that that's not true?
So I can try to answer that question, and then the city manager take their second question. So what we did tonight was verbal. So we verbally substituted some language, and so you wouldn't see that as a strike through or anything like that. But oftentimes when council has amendments that are proposed, they're in the packet. Proposed that way, and there is strike-through showing what would happen. And then right. if the city manager wants to add to that, you're welcome to do that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Well, the only thing I would add is that the original unamended legislation would still be in the record because it would be in the original packet. The finally adopted legislation would include any amendments that the council included, but if you wanted to refer back to what it was prior to being amended, it would be in the original packet. Sure. So you could look at it that way.
I'm just looking at, like, when you, in the original packet, and you've stricken it and you're amending it, and then 2 pages over in another packet, you have the new language that you've implemented in there, is really confusing, I think. But it could just be me because I am over 65, so things happen. But, so that's something that concerns me when we're rewriting things, that we have the original language easy to find. Where we're not skimming through pages and looking through different colors and the black is the new pink and pink is the new gray or whatever. So there's more clarity. So that's what I'm hoping that we'll do, that when we strike something, that we can actually see where you you eliminated it and put the new language in.
So-
And then my final thing is, well, actually, I think I'll just leave it at that, but I am really concerned about anybody can say Alaska Geographic. What does that mean? I mean, we're geographically in Alaska? Yes.
So,
Who are these people? I guess I want to know who they are. And, because we have we want to promote Alaska, because we are Alaskans, but we want it to be done, forthright and with continuity and with truthfulness and transparency. I certainly don't want another community coming in here from outside of Alaska and then monopolizing on a business that we could have here in Alaska, taking those resources and taking them away like they've done for all the years I've lived here. They take the money and run. Where's this going? So, does that make sense?
I don't know that I can specifically answer your questions or that the city manager can this evening.
Well, if you're going to put a special permit out to a company called Alaska Geographic, we'd like to know who that special permit is and who is Alaska Geographic. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone from else? Yes, please come forward and again, you'll need to state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Well, I think I can answer the question about Alaska Geographic.
And name and address, please.
Christine Schmidt, 513 Ash Avenue. Their website says, since 1959, Alaska Geographic has been the nonprofit education partner of Alaska's spectacular national parks, forests, refuges, and conservation lands. We support education programs and publications and raise funding for youth programs, stewardship projects, and arts and education programs. I've been a member for decades. They've been here forever. Every time you go to any national park or forest or wildlife refuge where there's a gift shop, they run it. Like down in Homer at Islands and Ocean Visitor Center, they run the gift shop. They provide all the materials. They're not some kind of outside organization.
Well, it's good to know.
Yeah. And this is their current name. They did change their name a few years ago, but basically, I'm assuming that in the kiosk will be maps and such things. Probably if you go to the wildlife refuge, you'll see some of the materials, maps and books and brochures about the wildlife refuge is what I'm sure that'll be in their kiosk. So just for your information.
Thank you.
Thank you
I'm
very
surprised
much.
that no one's heard of them.
Well, I've been to the gift shops you mentioned and bought some of their products, especially enjoy their calendars, that Alaska Geographic calendars, that I've sent to people outside who really enjoy those calendars too. Councilmember Nexted.
I'd just like to point out that in our packet, there's who they are, where they are, and who's going to be monitoring, that the Kenai Wildlife Refuge is going to be monitoring
Yes.
remotely and then actually putting things in there and stuff, but who they are, and a lot of what Christine just said didn't go back to 1959, but they got a lot of the other stuff in there, so it's mostly there.
Thank you, Councilmember Nexted. Is there anyone else from the general public who would like to comment? Okay, seeing none in the room, is there anyone on Zoom from the public who would like to make additional comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll go.
One last thing. I have a loud mouth, so it's okay. So, can we have this packet? I did not get one, so I'm not sure what you're referring to. Where we could get that?
Yes, you can get it through the city's website. So there's a button for meetings, and you click on the button, and there's there's both an agenda and a packet that you can download from the city website. So if you have access to computer, you'll be able to do that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, no problem at all. Appreciate your comments. So now we're to council comments, and we'll start with our newest member, our student representative, Leah Faulkner. Ms. Faulkner.
Hello. At Kenai Central High School, our sports are doing really well. I believe our volleyball is participating in the diamond tournament, and cheer is going to be a part of Rally in the Valley this weekend. At our sports games, we've had more school spirit than we've had in years. It has been crazy. And speaking of school spirit, we are trying to provide lots of school spirit opportunities due to the lack thereof during COVID times. Student Council is putting on Halloween hallway decorating for the classes. In addition to that, we are doing a spooky drive-in movie. We're going to watch The Quiet Place, and we're having a spirit week leading up to Halloween. I have had a couple students and people at the school come up to me with some concerns, so I thought it was important to share what they have said. First off, we've been having a lot of devious licks, which are a form of school vandalization. Sorry about that. And this has been a problem, and we have shut down the bathrooms after school hours to prevent these devious licks, and we're looking for more things we can do to prevent those. Some other things that have come up to me is the mental health in our school. A lot of students have had concerns, and same with the counselors. There's been a lot of reports and concerns regarding our students and how they're feeling. So I'm going to be talking to Sources of Strength, which is a leadership class that deals with mental health at our school, to look on ways how we can fix that. Another concern I got are our test fees. The tests at our school are pretty expensive. If you're in an AP class, in order to get the credit for college, you have to score a number on your AP test. And those AP tests run $96 each. And if you're in free and reduced lunches, it costs $62. And this isn't including pre-SATs and the ACT test, which are also pretty expensive. And that's all I have for you today. I also want to congratulate Ms. Sonar and Mr. Baston as well.
Thank you, Ms. Faulkner. Appreciate it. Councilmember Askin.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I just have lots of people to thank, and Mr. Freitas, you're going to leave a huge hole. My comments from Beautification Committee stand. You will be missed. Mr. Malloy, you're leaving the council much better than when you came. You've made a huge impact here. Thank you for your past years of leadership as a council member and vice mayor. Jamie, thank you for your service to the city and the council. All the best to you as you move on later in the year. Administration, thank you very much for your support, tutelage, answering my questions, and patience. I truly appreciated it and learned a lot from all of you. And lastly, thank you to the council for appointing me to serve these last 12 months. It's been my honor to do so, and I intend to stay involved in politics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Askin. And Councilmember Wingert.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I would like to just say welcome to our student rep. I asked for you for the last year, so I'm excited to hear your reports. I wanted to highlight one thing was your Volleyball Kills Cancer fundraiser. I think they raised, and you can correct me, $12,000 for the family, the Taylor family. Is that roughly the right?
I mean, I don't know exacts, but I helped count some of the money, and it was a lot. And that was part of a senior civics project, actually, which comes to prove how students can really make a difference in the lives of this city.
So I think that's great to just mention, and I just want to welcome you for bringing those reports. I wrote down some of those concerns, and maybe we can brainstorm on ways that we can offer more assistance and help on those concerns. I'd like to congratulate James Bazin and Deborah Sonar. I look forward to working with you for the next 2 years remaining of my term. So welcome, and I appreciate you guys being in the audience and participating in the process ahead of your seating. I'd like to thank Victoria for being willing to serve and put your name in to run for Robert's seat, and then again running in this last race. We all know campaigns aren't easy. They're not fun, and the corner holding a sign is really cold. And I'd like to thank Vice Mayor Malloy. It's been a pleasure to work with you over this last year, get together on different meetings, going over different issues on our agenda, and I appreciate you being willing to sit down, meeting, and working with me. It really has made a difference this last year that you have been willing to work with me, so I'd like to say thank you for that. We do have the ongoing dog park raffle, so I've seen a lot of comments that people don't know what this raffle is or how to get a hold of the raffle tickets. So the Kenai Rotary is working in partnership with the dog park selling raffle tickets. The raffle tickets are $5 a piece. The drawing is in February, and I have a bunch of books on me, so if you would like to buy a ticket, you can see me. I have tickets available, or if you know somebody else, they are also looking for Kenai businesses that would be willing to hold their raffle tickets and sell them on their behalf as well. So if you know any Kenai businesses that would be willing to partner in that effort, it would be greatly appreciated. I'd like to thank all of our first responders. We had a fallen Nikiski firefighter come through our area last night, and just the respect from all departments through that process is amazing. I appreciate our partnership and respects and condolences to the family. This is going to be a huge impact to the Nikiski area, and so just would like to bring mention to that and pay respect. And then talking about first responders, the Kenai Fire Department this week has been coming through the schools. This week they came through Mountain View with their firehouse and gave a great demonstration. The kids just love it. They love practicing dropping and rolling and covering and going through the drills. My kids especially love that because of my CERT background with the borough, so disaster and training is their thing. I got to see the pictures. It looked like a great time by all the class. So I just really appreciate all of what our first responders do. So, you know, they're invaluable, what they offer from dispatch to police to EMT to fire. They do a lot within our community, and I'm thankful for them. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Weir. Councilmember Petty.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. For all the community members and neighbors who came out tonight, who shared their input and comment and suggestions, I want to say thank you. Here at the city, we want to have full transparency and disclosure with everything that goes on here in the city. And if there's confusion or misunderstandings, please reach out to one of the council members or the city clerk to get clarifications about how you can get additional information so that you can follow along. And we'd be more than happy to share that insight and information. I know sometimes it seems a bit convoluted, but we work to do our utmost best here so that we can represent our community and provide the best of the best for our community, and we do appreciate your comments, suggestions, and you being here. It's very encouraging. Also, I wanted to thank the directors of the departments for their detailed reports that were in the packet this city council time. And also I wanted to say it's been an honor to serve with Ms. Askin. She will be greatly missed, but I wanted to welcome our new city council members, Mr. Basden and Ms. Sonard, and I look forward to having the privilege to work with y'all. Also, our student representative, thank you so very much for your participation and your very insightful report and the concerns so that we can do something to move forward to help in those regards. Mr. Bob Freitas, yes, you will be greatly missed, but I hope that you would be an availability in our fair community from time to time to be a resource, and I hope to continue to see you in our area. Thank you so very much for your service. Next, I would say that I have been greatly enhanced by having the privilege to serve with Vice Mayor Malloy. For his professionalism, his his attention to detail, and his working with all of us, even if we have differences of opinion, so that we can work through, so that we can bring our utmost best, so that we can serve our city at our finest. So thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, for your service. That ends my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Petty. Councilmember Glendening.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I want to thank City Manager Ostrander for responding to my abandoned vehicle requests, and I'm glad to see some action taken. Congratulations to James and Deborah and our new student representative. It's exciting to have some fresh faces and ideas and welcome on board, and I know I'll enjoy working with all of you. Just going through my packet, I appreciate the Public Works report. There's a lot on their plate, and but the description of actions taken and funds spent inform me greatly, and I have great confidence and respect for that department and how it is run. Thank Vice Mayor Malloy for his service, and I would say that I have enjoyed working with him over the past years, and I just note with interest that generally Bob and I would always start with similar premises and some basic agreement. Not very often, but sometimes we would diverge. But at the end of the discussion, I was better informed, and I do appreciate your dedication. And actually, you should have been a professor. I think you would have been great at that. I too attended the Pumpkin Fest, and I think our mayor did a wonderful job in heaving the pumpkin, and it was well received, and the participants there watched with rapt attention, and it was just a beautiful day, and a fine time was had by all. And then thanks again to Vice Mayor Malloy. During our comment periods and questions, he took time to give Citizen 101. We have maybe some newer people that come to our meetings, and just being intuitive and patient enough and respectful enough to point out where things can be found, and perhaps means and methods of getting questions answered and resolved. And I too will miss Bob. The Parks and Rec is the heartbeat of our city, and it's well represented. And I actually saw him mowing lawns in the rain this summer. But I always had a lot of respect for Bob. He played high school football with my son, and so he can do no wrong. I just cheers on you, mate. And tonight's library discussion, I think it was a teachable moment. It was nothing really meant to be critical. We just perhaps will, as a result of this, we'll learn a little bit more about how library materials are selected and how they're rotated through our public facility. And I was glad for the candid and respectful responses to our questions. And then the commission applications, I believe the deadline is the 8th of December. And so anybody out there in Radio Land, Zoom Land, that's interested in either re-upping for current seats or applying for openings or just wanting to be on the commission, I urge you to go ahead and fill out the applications. I believe they're online with the city, or you can call the city clerk's office, and they will be glad to assist you. And then just one comment, I guess. The certification of elections that we had, would we be better served by having it introduced as a resolution, so everything is codified and noted, rather than just a discussion item and a note in our packet? Just a question, and I'd be glad to discuss it with anybody, and I know other cities do by resolution. That ends my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Glendenning. Councilmember Nexted.
I don't have to be brief, do I? Yeah, you do. Good. Just because I'm last. Professor Malloy, you were kind of referred to that. At any rate, you had a clerk that said you were here for 384 regular meetings, and I did the quick math, and I think I was here for about 165 of those 384 regular meetings. I've enjoyed all of them. I found you to be very thorough, thoughtful, and always put the city of Kenai first, always. Whether we agreed or not, but you always did all of those things, and it was much appreciated. And what you brought to the table, what I appreciated was the thoroughness when you went through something. And even if we didn't agree, and it wasn't important that we didn't, but it usually improved what was there already, and you'd do yours and we'd go back and all that. But where we met in the middle, or on one side or the other, it was always better legislation and good for the city. So very much appreciated working with you this time. And I do have a new opinion of buffers. I'll never, Bob and buffers are going to always be kind of synonymous, but that's
like Henry and airports.
Yeah, well that's okay, and I appreciate you, Bob. I really do. And thanks for all of your service and all of your dedication here to the city. I wanted to thank Bob Freitas since he's here, and I might not have another opportunity before he does retire, and I'll be there at your retirement party for all the work you do. I've never seen you out in the middle of the rain, but I've seen you on weekends whenever there's a function, the night before perhaps, and maybe even the day after the function, whatever needs to be picked up, cleaned up, doing all that dedication. Since I've known you, it's a constant. You're always there and pushing and making things happen. And it's not like you have 1 or 5 parks or 10. You've got, I guess I should know the number, but at any rate, there's a lot of acreage and places and things to do and be taken care of. And I think we have a very beautiful city. Growing up here, it was kind of a dust bowl. We didn't have any grass. It was just dusty and all that. And it's got grass, and then it's mowed, and now it's really a very beautiful place to drive through, and a lot of that is attributed to you. So thank you very much for that and everything you've done, and I hope you look forward to your retirement and have fun with those grandkids. Victoria, I've enjoyed working with you on council and planning and zoning before that, and hope to see you again sometime somewhere at the city, perhaps out here in the audience or something like that. And thank you for all of your dedication here with the city. I also wanted to thank in our audience here Ms. Sonart, Ms. Basin, and congratulations on your winning of your positions. And we'll look forward to working with you coming up in the next meeting and on from there. So it'll be very fun. And also the student rep. Congratulations, you did a very good job for your first time here and everything. I was quite impressed. And I think they're putting out really good students there at Kenai Central High School, which is where I went. And I went to school with his kids too, so I guess I can do no wrong either. So but anyway.
And they're old.
Okay. Couple more things. Last person I like to thank, and I don't usually thank everybody, do the whole thing, is just not my way, but our appreciation of Shelley Sainer, who may also be online here. She was our new clerk-to-be. Look forward to working with her. I worked with her when she was at the borough for a while, and then on the edge, I suppose, when she was over at the city of Soldotna clerk, and she'll be our new clerk starting. Well, she's kind of starting now, but really, be more for the first of the year, I think, something like that. So really look forward to working with Shelley, and very excited about working with her. Last two things is the Pumpkin Fest. I was there as well, and I think there's about 1,200 other people that were there too. A beautiful day, sunny, no wind, typical Kenai day. A little crisp, but great thing. And the mayor went all the way up as far as the extension on the fire edge ladder would go, and dropped a pumpkin. I saw it drop, and then I could hear it. It was behind the crowd, big pop.
And he didn't throw up.
Well, I wasn't watching that close, but it was a great fun. Enjoyed it. Great pumpkin drop. If you like to watch pumpkins drop, however, Kenai Aviation is putting on their annual pumpkin drop this Saturday about 11 o'clock down Bowie Street off K Beach. the runway that's it's south 5 miles from here. So we'll be dropping there, and they'll also be having, if you make, well, they're gonna have soups and foods and stuff like that in here. So, just another thing to be doing, kind of pre-winter barely, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Naxted.
I mean, Professor Malloy.
Yeah, I appreciate your kind words and everybody else's. Mayor Gabriel. Mayor Gabriel, would you like to make some final comments?
Yeah, I would. I did realize that I did overlook the new student rep, so I agree with the comments that some of our other members made, and I was really impressed with your input here this evening. And with that, I'm going to leave Bob to his swan song here.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Just one comment on policy, and then I have a lot of thanks. I really appreciated the joint work session that we did on the land management plan. One comment I didn't make at the time was to encourage council to consider legislation by an ordinance rather than a resolution. The reason is that an ordinance gives the public more time, because with the resolution, there's only, like, it gets on the website on Friday and then you have a meeting on Wednesday, or they find out about it on a Monday. With an ordinance, there's a whole other week, a week and a half for public. I do very much appreciate everybody's comments and the plaque and everything, and I also appreciate the thanks of some of the voters and people that have reached out to me outside of the meeting. And I got another award, which is an ornament of the child, which is Baby Yoda of the Mandalorian, and a voter gave this to me and said it should be a badge for service on city council. And want to welcome Leah Faulkner, and I agree with Councilmember Naxted totally. Really did an excellent job for your first meeting. Wanted to mention some of the other people that have served in your position with me: Leslie Cruzen, Adam DeMello, Brittany Harding, Maya Johnson, who's now Lel, 2 years, because she started as a junior like you, Hannah Kaufman, then Austin Daly, who was also here for 2 years because she started as a junior, Courtney Stroh, Ellie Ostrander, Hannah Drury, Mackenzie Lindeman, Brittany Gilman, and Tristan Summers. And so, only had one meeting with you, but impressed. And, if you do it for 2 years, you'll really be doing some resume building. Definitely have to thank my wife, Christine Schmidt. I remember one time we were doing exercise walking in July, and we were going by the cemetery and the ball fields. And I said, I'm thinking maybe I would run for council. And she really jumped on that, encouraged me to do that. And always been there to support and help me with all my campaigns. A lot of this was before social media took off, so there was a lot of work involved with stuff, and I really appreciate it. And like she said, squeezing in all your things with 384 or 48 meetings or whatever it was, and I think I missed maybe 3 of them. 2 because I was in Europe, because my daughter lives in England, and there's a 9-hour difference, and then recently the mayor and I both happened to be out of town. Also, why it's not 15 or 12 or whatever. So the story behind that is, Mike Boyle had run for council the year before me and lost, and so there was a 1-year seat because Mayor Porter, who I served with, Pat Porter, had got elected to mayor, and so there was a 1-year seat and a 3-year seat. So he came by my door again and knocked on the door and said, 1 year and 3 year, which are you going for? And I said, well, you ran and lost, so it should be your choice. So he said, well, I want the 3-year. So that's why, I went for the 1 year. And I want to thank, all the voters that elected me that first time and that expressed the confidence in me to reelect me. That was previous, and that was much appreciated. It's been an honor and a privilege. Like I said, two mayors, Pat Porter and Brian Gabriel, and I spoke earlier about Mayor Gabriel and his leadership. Also very much appreciated working with this council. Councilmember Askin, Petty, Winger, Glendenning, and Nexted. And like we talked about and the mayor talked about, I've learned a lot from working with you also, back and forth. And a lot of your comments have persuaded me on certain policy votes, and certainly Councilmember Nexted, buffers and the airport and one thing that was really good has been collaborating with a lot of the council members in administration and working on legislation, and had the opportunity to collaborate with most of the people that I've served with on legislation, and that's generally been more fun than solo. But certainly that's been appreciated. There's a bunch of vice mayors that I've served with, and I should mention them: Linda Swarner, Joe Moore, Rick Ross, Ryan Marquis, Mike Boyle, and Tim Navarre. And other past council members, Cliff Massey, Hal Smalley, Barry Eldridge, Terry Bookie, Robert Peterkin, that all of these people did a lot of service to the city of Kenai, and especially my two mentors, because your first year, and here at first I want to definitely congratulate the newly elected council members, Sunard and Baisden, and wish you the best for your transition. There is a learning curve, and I especially appreciate Cliff Massey and Rick Ross, who helped me a lot as mentors in my learning curve in my first year. Also, one thing that I've always tried to do as a council member, and I know that all of us do, and every once in a while I like to rip it off, and that's the mission statement for the city of Kenai, and it's to serve the citizens of Kenai through listening and leading, to promote growth and continually improve services by balancing the wishes of the community with responsible management. And I really believe in that. And, I thank all the people that came to the council meeting tonight, to give their input. It was great to see a good turnout and to hear from the public. And no, I haven't memorized that. And Councilmember Bookie asked me that once, and years ago. He said, "Wow, did you memorize that?" And I said, "No, I've got it on a file that I bring with me, so I won't mistake it." Also, I have to thank the city managers I worked with, Rick Cook and Paul Ostrander, especially Paul Ostrander, for the last 5 years, and the city attorneys, Carrie Graves, Krista Stearns, and Scott Bloom, our current city attorney, and the city clerks, Carol Frias, Sandra Mudig, and Jamie Hines. And the administrative team has really been important to the success of me, for whatever success I had with legislation. It's been very much appreciated. They spent a lot of time working with me, and they spent a lot of time working with all of us. There was a lot of support that was provided to me for running this meeting, and there was a lot of some bumps in it, and I appreciate council helping me out with that. That they did. Certainly if Mayor Gabriel was running it, it would have been a lot smoother. I also need to, I can't mention all the directors, but I do want to thank Mr. Frades, because he's here, and he's certainly served a lot longer than me. And here again, I agree with Councilmember Naxted and his comments about Mr. Frades and our other members. Also have to mention the two finance directors I worked with, Larry Simmons and Terry Eubank, especially Terry Eubank. I think we did a lot of good work, in helping improve the financial condition of the city with, the investment protocol for and ordinance for the airport permanent reviews. Because when I first came on council, we were losing like $500,000 a year, and this is where your finance director and your administration is really important. And then also I'm pleased that when I started, the mill rate was 4.5 and it's 4.35. And we've been able to keep sales tax at 3%, 6%. And that's because your council has, followed the mission statement really and really tried to balance the wishes of the community and manage everything responsibly. And I appreciate the support of Mr. Eubank in doing that. And also I want to especially thank Ms. Hines. It was a pleasure to work with you on a lot of legislation that we did also. Again, it's been an honor and a privilege and responsibility that I've certainly enjoyed, and I'm excited for the future for the city of Kenai. You have going to have a new council starting Monday and a new student representative, and future looks really good. So great, thank you. So I guess I have to adjourn the meeting too. There's no executive session. No pending items. Appreciate it. Thank you. Meeting's adjourned. Yeah. And vice versa, but, I think we developed a really good working relationship, and we worked on some good legislation together, and, like